Well,
it's now time for The Sit Down with Don Tony.
The Sit Down, where Don Tony talks one-on-one with his followers.
What are you looking at?
About the world of pro wrestling, pop culture, and so much more.
The Sit Down with Don Tony.
And now, your host, Don Tony.
That never gets old. That never gets old. What's going on, everybody? Still trying to recover from this 4th of July holiday. It is Sunday night, July 6, 2025. Welcome to today's edition of The Sit Down. I am Don Tony, and boy, it's been an interesting 48 hours, let me tell you. First of all, my wife has been sick the last 2 days, and this morning she says, I think I got COVID. I got that burning sensation in my throat. So we had a COVID test left over. She took it, tested positive. We said, maybe the test is old. So we ordered through Uber Eats, had someone go pick up a couple of COVID tests for us. It was too early in the morning for me to go. And sure enough, she does a second test. She tests positive. Now me, I live with her. So I think, I feel good. And then for the last couple of hours, all downhill. So even though we are in air conditioner, you could see it's a little bit hot in here. So I probably have it. No, I am not testing myself. If I start really feeling it, then I got to figure out what I'm doing tomorrow, because tomorrow I got work. Got a lot of shit going on. So we're dealing with that. And then something else that I'm not even going to bring on the show. Let's just say I had a horrible reaction to a prescription that a doctor prescribed me, brand new, that I almost had to go to the hospital yesterday. Not fun, but luckily things seem to be better today. So it's all good. I'm here. Now, Sunday night, as we always say, it's the lazy show. I sit here, we open up with a little conversation, and then I take your questions for the duration of the show. Obviously, to be part of the show, you just got to be live and be in the chat. Of course, our super chatters or super shout-outs get VIP treatment, get to the front of the line. And we're going to talk quickly about a very busy next 7 days, really 14 days if you want to count Slamversary. We got 5 substantial wrestling events coming up. We got Saturday night's main event, bye-bye Goldberg. And I say that kidding around. I grew up a wrestling fan. I saw his career from the beginning to now the very end. Unfortunately, the door closes on all wrestlers' careers. I just hope that the match with him and Gunther is not embarrassing. Obviously, they're working hard on making sure that this is good. And I also believe that before this decision was made to have this retirement match against Gunther, I'm pretty certain that they definitely did some work in the ring together beforehand. Not something that we'll see on season 2 of WWE Unreal. Yes, season 2. We'll talk about that in the future, a couple of weeks. Remember, you heard it here. So I just hope he doesn't embarrass himself. Blowing up emotionally, yeah, it's a big deal. It's not only that his career is coming to an end, but it reminds you that you're old. You're older. And we all become mortal. I mean, look at how many of the deaths that we've discussed this year. I'm kind of tired of talking about deaths. Even this past week, we had a couple of actors pass away. Even bullshit people. I don't want to say it like that, but even like Cletus from the Dukes of Hazzard died. You got politicians who pass away, actors, actresses. The guy who wrote comic books in the 70s and the 80s for Marvel. You know, I don't remember him all that well, but I do remember that there was a rebirth. It felt like a rebirth with comic books somewhere around maybe mid-80s, because I never was into the superheroes. And even I found myself going to this old collectible store, Fun Stuff, and buying comic books in the mid-80s. You know, and then they just sat in my closet, and then I'm like, what am I doing with these comic books? And I ended up getting rid of them. So we'll talk about the upcoming events. We'll do a little early preview on these events. And, you know, I will say this, you know, Great American Bash is a week away, and they've only announced 3 matches, which I think is ridiculously awful. I expect another match or 2 to be added this Tuesday on NXT, but they haven't even determined who the tag team is going to represent NXT at Evolution. We don't even know who the tag team is going to be. So we'll talk about Evolution quickly. We'll talk about the Bash. We'll talk about Saturday night's main event, All In, Slamversary. So then we'll get into your questions. We'll definitely open up with that. You know, listen, I know the thumbnail is cracking a little joke at Tony Khan, and I don't want to really go hard on this guy, but, you know, if you say something enough, people start believing it to be true. I, for one, and I'm going to defend AEW for a second, I, for one, have been bringing up for years now that Dynamite replays numerous times on Warner Media programming. Yeah, the first run episode is the one that matters because of the advertisers and because ratings do matter, believe it or not. Go back a year, maybe 2. I don't remember if it was last year or the year before. Do a little Tony Khan search on his social media, and you will find that he did a couple of print interviews, and he said ratings are everything. Ratings are everything. And believe me, you know, you start looking at the first run and you start seeing percentages. Oh, it's up. It's the greatest year ever. You start adding a lot of the ratings for the replays, which we don't have access to. We're not privy to that. No wrestling site is privy to that. But let me make something perfectly clear. Tony Khan absolutely knows how many viewers are tuning into Max. And if that number was spectacular, that would be in a press release. That would be something mentioned over and over and over and over again, for the simple reason is that why would you hide great news? You want to build on that. You want to show people. Just saying, you know, this is our greatest year ever and not backing it up with specifics. You know, anybody could say that. My marriage is better than ever. My job is better than ever. Everything is great. You know, just because you say it with a smile on your face doesn't make it true. But you start adding up every single view. Yeah, their numbers aren't that bad. You know, the problem is you start factoring YouTube, you start factoring secondary, tertiary runs, you know, viewership late at night, this and that. You know, let me put it this way. If that formula equals success, then how come other TV shows that have repeats late at night and on streaming platforms still cancel due to lower ratings? You know, I'm not saying AEW is going to be canceled anytime soon. You know, somebody was DMing me this week that do I believe that AEW has become the second most successful wrestling promotion in history? And I would say no. And the only reason why I say no is because AEW still exists to this day because of Tony Khan's wallet. Not because of revenue being reinvested, not because of growth. It's because the only thing that's growing is the amount of money that he's putting into it. You know, sure, listen, I could sit here and I'm not trying to compare it, but I think we all agree. I'm the longest running host of all time. You know, if you think about it, I've been doing the hotline since 97. And if I have nobody tuning in, then as long as I keep dumping money in my equipment and dumping money in hosting and all my other expenses related to it, I could go forever. I could go until the day I drop. You know, just putting money into something doesn't equate to the biggest or the greatest or the second greatest of all time. That's my honest opinion about it. I give Tony Khan nothing but props that this man is investing that kind of money. Jesus, let's be honest. If he didn't have that kind of money, either AEW would be a publicly traded company right now. And, you know, people keep saying to me, DT, do I think Warner Brothers Discovery really does own a stake in AEW? That's the $1 million question, right? Do we all agree that Warner Brothers Discovery owning part of AEW is the $1 million question? I say this as an answer to you. And if I were you, you should use my answer because I honestly think it's the best answer possible. Don't you feel like Warner Brothers Discovery would have to reveal that in an SEC filing? I know right now some people's brains just exploded. What's the SEC filing? Google it. Don't you think Warner Brothers Discovery would have to file some sort of an SEC filing to let their investors know that they have this stake in this company? What happens if AEW starts developing a gigantic profit? What if it starts really exploding? And this is something you don't reveal to your own investors? That's why the fact that this is never discussed in an investor's call tells me that, no, I don't believe that they have a financial stake. I'm sure that they get a bigger cut from other forms of revenue, but as far as owning, let me put it this way, whatever corporation owns AEW, see like my shows here, my shows are owned by DDT Entertainment LLC. I have it under a corporation because I have to pay taxes. I have insurance in case anybody ever decides to sue me, but everything is under that company. No one else owns it. No one else owns it. So whatever corporation owns AEW, Warner Brothers Discovery would have to own a percentage of that stock. And until I see that in a filing, until I see them tell their shareholders, I don't believe that they own any stake in AEW. I'm sure they have deals where they get a percentage of this and a percentage of that. You know, the mafia used to take a percentage of my dad's fucking income at his deli. Does that mean they own the deli? No, they would just show up. Hey, you got our money this week. So I'm sure it's in writing, whatever Warner Brothers Discovery and AEW have a deal. But, you know, it is what it is. So very quickly, let's do this in date order. And if anybody, once I get into this, if you have any questions related to the upcoming events, you're more than welcome to post them, and then we'll get into everything else. Let's talk first about the Great American Bash. Now, we're not really doing predictions right now. We're just giving everybody a vibe, a feel of what is coming up over the next week especially. Right now, for Great American Bash, they're advertising Obafemi defending the NXT Championship against Yoshiki Inamura. Now, I'll throw in a couple of predictions along the way. Nothing against Yoshiki Inamura, but I don't personally think we're going to see Triple H going like this and pointing at him with the NXT Championship. So it'll be a hard-fought match. It'll be a good test for Obafemi, but that title ain't going nowhere. In fact, I honestly think once that match is over, somebody's going to come out and confront Obafemi just to get the attention off of Inamura. Sol Ruka defending the North American Championship against Izzy Dame. Now, Sol Ruka has been the Speed Champion and the North American Champion at the same time. Sol Ruka's had a great run. I don't know if anybody else, I'm not making predictions with this, but does anybody else feel like Izzy Dame is starting to get some interesting momentum right now? Is this a match to really solidify her on the map, or is this a match where she could possibly cause an upset? Then you have the match that some people think is spoiled already, let's be honest, some people think it's spoiled. Jordan Grace and Blake Monroe taking on Fatal Influences, JC Jane and Fallon Henley. And you say to yourself, okay. It's a tag team match. Jordan Grace, obviously the setup, the match with JC Jane. Do we have a situation where Jordan Grace pinned the champion going into Evolution? Or could it be the opposite? So this match is obviously to set up the Evolution match between Jordan Grace and JC Jane. Now, going up against the Great American Bash, or actually, let me be respectful here. NXT Great American Bash is going up against AEW All In. Let's be honest. AEW All In is the show that night. I don't look at this as controversy like everybody else does. As we do the history show, if anybody tunes in on a weekly basis, you realize how many times WWE programming went up against AEW programming as far as premium live events and pay-per-views go. This is not anything new. But what a lot of people need to realize is that not everybody wants to watch a pay-per-view or a premium live event at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a Saturday. Great American Bash is not, I'm going to make this clear, is not going to take away pay-per-view buys from All In. It's not. Even if you get people online, I watch Great American Bash instead of All In. Good for you. Good for you. That's not stopping you from watching All In at 7 o'clock at night. That's not stopping you from watching All In on a Sunday. You still got to pay for it. You'll be spoiled by then, and maybe you'll be more inclined to even buy the thing further because of what goes down. So listen, and Great American Bash is a Peacock subscription. If you're overseas, it's a Netflix subscription. If you subscribe to them, you already get it for nothing. Remember, I can't believe I'm the only person that's ever put this online. People are telling me still to this day, holy shit, DT, I never even knew. If you are subscribed to Instacart and you're an Instacart Plus member, you get Peacock for free. Go to Instacart and look it up. I can't believe how many people never knew that. And still people are coming to me and saying, I had no idea. So you can watch WWE programming on Peacock for nothing, for free. You'll get some ads. Be prepared for that. But the thing is, this is not a case anymore where, 20 years ago, you watched the pay-per-view and you got one replay and then maybe you don't get another replay for a couple of days later. No one's going to be hurt by this. And by the way, All In happening at the same time as the Bash. I think most people will watch All In first and then watch the Bash a little bit later on. Now, right now for All In, they have advertised Tony Storm defending the AEW Women's World Championship against Mercedes Moné. As I've been saying, take note, none of Mercedes championships are on the line. That should give you a little bit of an idea where this may be going. Jon Moxley will be defending the AEW World Championship in a Texas death match, which, if you're a big Cornette fan, lazy booking. It's going to be a clusterfuck. You're going to have, I think the over and under of people getting involved in that match is 8. So obviously this may lead, to the return of someone. I'm not doing predictions now, but props to all of you out there that think that Hangman Page is actually going to take this and then set up something with Darby. I don't know. I haven't really thought about it yet. Okada, who is the Continental champion at the time, taking on Kenny Omega, who's the international champion right now, and it's winner take all. They will now create the unified championship. So you have both those titles being unified. You have the men's and women's casino gauntlet match. The winner of each gets a future championship opportunity for a world title, not a title of your choosing. Swerve and Will Ospreay taking on the Young Bucks, and the stipulation is that if the Young Bucks lose, they are no longer EVPs. If Swerve and Will Ospreay lose, they cannot challenge for the World Championship for a full year. If you follow my other shows, you already know my thoughts on this. I kind of feel a year-long blue balls build-up for Will Ospreay getting that World Championship at Wembley next year. And it's going to give me vibes of when Shawn Michaels first won the heavyweight championship years ago. You know, the boyhood dream has come true. The only thing we got to hope is that AEW does not book All In 2026 before July 13th. Because it'd be pretty fucking funny if they book All In before July 13th of 2026. And then if you want to split hairs, no, Will, you can't challenge for the championship for 1 full year. 1 full year. I think they'll probably book All In for August next year. And then, so right now, my gut feeling is that Will Ospreay, they will play blue balls for a whole year. And Swerve, you know, listen, I'm not trying to be a dick here, but I think that's very, very smart on AEW's part. What happens if Swerve gets no world championship shots for the next year? Can you picture social media in an uproar? They're doing Swerve dirty. They're doing Swerve dirty. Then you'll get people out there, they're treating him like shit because he's black. So now AEW could say, you know, we want to give him a title shot, but he lost that stipulation. Nothing we could do. AEW is very fucking smart doing that. We've kind of exposed on the history show that stupid stipulation that WWE does. If Damian Priest loses the match, he can never challenge for the world championship as long as Seth Rollins is champion, or vice versa. Because then when you really think about it, yeah, what are the chances that those stars are going to align again? Probably not. It never does for the most part. If you look, I mean, look at some of the title changes that we ended up with no fucking rematches. Insert Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns is a perfect example of that. I'd love if they would have done that stipulation with Cody and John Cena. But, you know, John Cena's retiring, so it wouldn't matter anyway. They should do that extra stipulation just to troll people. If Cody loses at SummerSlam, he can never challenge for the world championship again as long as John Cena's champion. I would do that just to be a dick. Adam Cole will defend the TNT title against Kyle Fletcher. So no revisiting the idea of Adam Cole taking on Garcia or someone else. We're getting Fletcher and Adam Cole, which I honestly think might be the sleeper hit of the night. And the Hurt Syndicate defending the tag titles against Jet Speed, Speedball Mike Bailey, and Kevin Knight, and Christian Cage and Nick Wayne. Remember when we talked about the father and son championships? I don't know. We will see. We will see. More matches will be added, obviously, but that's pretty much what you got right now. Funny thing is, Great American Bash is going to go off the air, and All In might not even be halfway done. I'm kind of exaggerating that, but all right, Saturday night's main event. You got a lot of shit going down in one night. Actually, Saturday night's main event is the 12th. So, yeah, that's all through the same night. Yeah, 3 in one day. 3. So, All In, think about this. All In, post-media scrum, Saturday night's main event. You may be watching fucking wrestling for like 10 hours before everything's set on. Imagine doing that. I'm going to watch All In. The pre-show starts at, I think, 2 Eastern. And then it'll run from 3 until 7. And then you got the media scrum. And then at 8, you got Saturday night's main event to 10. And then at 10 o'clock, yeah, I'll go watch NXT Great American Bash, which would end until like 12:30 in the morning. No. God bless any of you podcasters out there that do watch-alongs for all of that. Been there, done that. Will not do it in the near future. My ass would never forgive me. But we have Saturday night's main event. Only 3 matches announced right now. Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre, which is going to bring back, some old school. Be a fun match. Nice brawl. Happy to see Drew McIntyre back. Pretty funny to see that article that we ripped apart last week. That the mysterious disappearance of Drew McIntyre. We had some fun a little over a week ago, and sure enough, that taping, he was back. LA Knight versus Seth Rollins. This was the only place that they could do it outside of SummerSlam because they're on separate rosters. Remember, LA Knight had to go through Braun Breaker, had to go through Bronson Reed for revenge, and now he gets his revenge on Seth Rollins. Problem is, LA Knight, attacking Breaker and Braun from behind, yeah, it's a little bit of his revenge. Here he gets a one-on-one match with Seth Rollins. And Gunther defending the World Heavyweight Championship against Goldberg. As we said before, it's going to be an emotional match. Probably go off the air with that match, even though I kind of disagree. I don't think he has any shot of becoming champion. I see what people are saying. I think people are doing that just for extra clicks, just for, hits. I click on it for shits and giggles. I don't care if I give him a penny in ad revenue. I like to watch the mentally retarded try to convince me stupidity, ridiculous. And watch Goldberg wins the championship. And I'll sit here and I'll admit it. I'll admit, listen, before I go any further, I should have said this right at the beginning of the episode. My thoughts are with everybody in Texas. That flooding, crazy shit, man. That Mystic summer camp with all those kids. 750 kids were there and literally had next to no warning. And some of them were sleeping, when the waters hit. Understand something. There's a lot of people doing Monday morning quarterbacking now, saying that they should have gotten advance warning. That, it's terrible. It's terrible what happened, and unfortunately, no one expected that to happen. Believe me. Look at Superstorm Sandy. If any of you out there ever saw the video of my parents' house destroyed and sideways from Sandy, and to think that night, to their grave, they're still alive, to their grave, they were in the house, locked in their bedroom, with my bird, Freddie, in a cage, and literally in that house while it's being destroyed. My father's car is flipping over and over like a toy. You think my parents thought that there was any chance there would be that kind of damage? No. And they're right on the fucking water. Nobody went up to my parents like, what are you, fucking stupid? What are you, nuts? Are you crazy? Nobody knew. People expected flooding, but everybody in that neighborhood were putting sandbags outside. No one envisioned what happened. The water was like 30 feet in the air. So it's when something like this happens, it's really almost impossible to prepare. And the problem is, for some other states, especially Florida, you get these warnings and evacuations and evacuations and evacuations, and you come back, oh, my house is great. Oh, I had a little damage, nothing. Why am I evacuating? And then people stop evacuating, and then that storm hits that just levels everything. You just can't predict it. You just can't predict it, man. One day, I'll show the video here. I don't think we've ever showed it on the sit-down. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. I shot video driving up their block. When you see, it looks like a war zone. Not just their house, but it's crazy. It's crazy. So that's what we have advertised right now for Saturday night's main event. So that leaves us Evolution and Slamversary. Now, Evolution is interesting. And I see that someone sent a super shout out, a very generous one, I might add, that kind of has to do with this. Ronnie, thank you for your generosity. He says, Evolution 2 feels really flat to me. Do I agree or disagree? And if so, why? All right. Now, before I tell you how I feel about Evolution 2, let me read the current lineup. All right. We have, let me say one thing quickly also. I'm sure you've heard this stupid controversy. Beyonce's right across the street. Beyonce's having a concert right across the street. It's going to fuck everything up. First of all, Beyonce's been at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. She will be there for the 4th day. She's been in concert there for 4 days, I think, out of 5. Second of all, they're not right across the street from each other. They're about 3/4 of a mile apart. And if you look at the map, it's 2 different roads to lead to those areas. Yeah, if you want to be a moron, you could take this road, and then when you get stuck in crazy traffic and you got to get past the stadium to get to the arena, yeah, that's on you. But nah, there's no controversy. There's just people out there just trying to stir shit up. So Evolution, this is what they are advertising so far, and then I'll give you my thoughts. Jade Cargill will take on Naomi in a no-holds-barred match. Tiffany Stratton will defend the WWE Women's Championship against Trish Stratus. Now, it's pretty obvious. This is kind of like passing the torch. This is also because Tiffany has pretty much no feud right now for the most part. You know, we keep seeing the same names over and over again, but for being honest, you know, Tiffy's in a little bit of a rut right now. Not her fault, obviously. Jade Cargill and Naomi, you know, that has been a blood feud. And really, you know, this almost feels like a case where Naomi could lose, but she's still got the briefcase, so she doesn't really lose much of anything. We have Raquel Rodriguez and Roxanne Perez defending the Women's World Championships against Alexa Bliss and Charlotte, and a team from Raw and a team from NXT. They have not announced the team from Raw yet, but remember what I said last week. Roxanne Perez will be taking on Kairi Sane on Raw. I think that is being done by design. So Raquel Rodriguez shows up, double teams Kairi Sane, and then this may lead to Asuka making her return as a Kabuki warrior, makes the save, and it's Kairi Sane and Asuka as that tag team representing Raw. If Asuka does not wrestle in that tag match, my predictions for the Battle Royal will change. Let's just say that. Let me put it this way. The winner of the Battle Royal will get a World Women's Championship match at Clash in Paris. Now, I hope people read how it was written. I think it's just people being too general right now. The way people are writing that stipulation, it's the Raw Women's Championship. It's not Tiffany Stratton's title. I get it. It's semantics right now, but remember, Raw is the Women's World Championship, and on SmackDown, it's the WWE Women's Championship. You look at how everybody's written that stip, it would be Raw Women's Championship. So Asuka obviously is going to be getting a championship opportunity soon. Does she get it from winning a Battle Royal? Maybe. We'll see. We shall see. Not doing predictions yet because we got to see who that women's tag team representing Raw is. Listen, there's some people that think that the Bellas will be that tag team. Good for you. You know, listen, I'll say this. Obviously, Nikki Bella was promised a rather high-profile match at Evolution. And unfortunately, Ronda Rousey Nikki Bella too. Ain't happening. Could Nikki Bella team up with like a Natty? No. I think Brie should be able to do it. I mean, when you have 4 tag teams, you kind of hide, the fact that they don't really wrestle much anymore. So they could be in there for like a minute, tag out, do something. Somebody slaps them on the back, tags themselves in. There's a lot of gaga you could do there. But you know what? If the Bella twins are announced, but let me ask you a question. I just thought of something. Why would the Bellas represent Raw? Can't the Bellas represent NXT? They're not the Raw brand. So, the more I think about it, Bellas will not be that tag team. They will not be that tag team. Right now, the only participants announced for the Battle Royal is Ivy Nile and Stephanie Vacquet. That's it. No one else has been announced yet. What are we missing here? Io Sky versus Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley's never defeated Io Sky one-on-one. Some people are a little annoyed thinking that Rhea Ripley's going to get that championship back. I'm not that sure. We're not doing predictions yet. In fact, we're going to do predictions Monday night. So after we watch Raw, then I'll give you my prediction. I'll give you a hint. As of right now, I think Io Sky is going to retain. JC Jane will actually defend the NXT Women's Championship against Jordynne Grace. I'm not going to comment on that match yet because that match has implications for Slamversary. And when I get into that implication, you will understand why many people think this match has already been spoiled. And then we got Becky Lynch defending the Women's Intercontinental Championship against Bayley and Lara Valkyria. That is your card. Don't think they'll be adding any matches. Now, I will say this, okay, before we mention Slammiversary. Ronnie sent this early. I already had this prepared, I should say, for tomorrow's show after Raw, because we are going to do predictions for Evolution. But do I think Evolution is flat right now? Yes, I do. And I think there is a legitimate reason why. The first Evolution took place in 2018. That was 7 years ago. Let me remind everyone the match results from the first Evolution. And I'm also going to mention a couple of ages as we go along. Rhea Ripley, who was 21 at the time, defeated Dakota Kai, who was 30. Everybody bitches and complains about Dakota Kai, didn't get enough chance and released and this and that. Not trying to be age discrimination right now, but she's going to be 38. She's going to be 38. I think a lot of people don't realize that. Trish Stratus and Lita defeated Mickie James and Alicia Fox. Nia Jax won a 20-women battle royale for a women's championship match. At the time, Nia Jax was 34 years old. Toni Storm defeated Io Shirai in the Mae Young Classic, the tournament final. At the time, Io Sky was 28 years old. Toni Storm was 22. 6-woman tag match. Sasha Banks, Bayley, and Natalya defeated the Riot Squad. At the time, Sasha was 28. Sasha was 26. Bayley was 29. Liv Morgan was 24. I'm just mentioning a couple of ages because I want to lead it to something. Shayna Baszler beat Kairi Sane to win the NXT Women's Championship. Becky Lynch retained the SmackDown Women's title in the last woman standing match against Charlotte Flair. That fucking match went 30 minutes. 30 minutes. I had to double check the video on YouTube. 30 fucking minutes. Ronda Rousey defeated Nikki Bella to retain the Raw Women's Championship. Okay. Why do I think Evolution 2 is flat? Number one, I think this is the most important reason. Go back to 2018. This was only about 2+ years removed from the Four Horsewomen debuting on Monday Night Raw. This was the early time where women's wrestling for WWE started to get additional time. There was this demand. Give them more time. Give divas a chance. Give them more time. They give them a women's only pay-per-view. Look at how women's wrestling in the WWE has been used since the first Evolution. Professional wrestling, in my opinion, will never be on a consistent basis 50% men's matches, 50% women's matches. You may have an occasional swing, but for the most part, it's always going to lean heavy towards the men. It's just like other sports. You know, you look at overall viewership for a men's sport and a women's sport. Some sports, women's are higher. Some sports, men's are higher. It's not a sexist thing. It's not less of an opportunity. Just some forms of sport and entertainment is targeted towards a certain demographic. So women's wrestling is not in need of additional time. What women's wrestling is in need of is a little bit better creativity, a little bit better storyline, and not seeing the same usual suspects always getting championship opportunities. So that's the biggest reason to me why Evolution 2 feels flat, because Evolution 1, was like breaking a barrier that, all right, we're getting our first pay-per-view and we're going to show that we belong, we deserve more time. And it delivered. Nassau Coliseum, I think it was Nassau Coliseum, was almost sold out, pretty close to a sellout. I know at the time I predicted a sellout. I think it was very close to it, maybe not 100%. So that demand, that urgency, that lack of is no longer here. The second thing is, look at the thumbnail that I posted. It's not the official thumbnail, but it's one of the ones floating around. You look at almost everybody on that card, with the exception of J.C. Jane and Jay Cargill for the most part. Everybody's been there for quite some time. I'm talking about those who are wrestling right now. When I just read you Evolution 1's results, Sasha and Bailey, Charlotte, they're only on the main roster 2.5 years. Liv Morgan, maybe a little bit less than that. I'm not sure. I didn't check dates, but for the most part, those matches, a lot of the women were still fairly new to the main roster. You had Mickie James, who was a Hall of Famer even back then, for the career that she had. Natalya was a veteran, I would say, in 2018. So when you see this card, that sense of urgency is not there. A lot of wrestlers that are on this card have had the big opportunities. They've had the Hell in the Cells. They have main evented premium live events. They have main evented Raws and SmackDowns. They have many more championship belts now than they had before. So I think those are the reasons why. And plus, I know people hate when I say this. But, multiple years, when Triple H was asked about Evolution 2, Triple H shot it down. I think Triple H has been the biggest proponent for giving women a chance in WWE more than anybody else. You look at what's happened in NXT. Yes, Shawn Michaels gets a crazy amount of credit now too, but I don't think Triple H has ever tried to keep it down. But Triple H always used to make the same point. He wants to treat everyone equal. If a woman has earned that opportunity and is progressing and excelling, he wants to give everybody an even playing field. Doesn't want to have just women's only this or women only that, because he wanted to give everybody the same opportunity to shine. Yes, in reality, that's not the case for most women. But Triple H was never in favor of Evolution 2. And I've said this before. Why do I think Triple H caved in with this? Because the women wanted it. A lot of the women there wanted it. A lot of women still feel that they're not given the same opportunity, so they wanted it. And he gave it to them. And that's why I believe this is happening. But a women's only TV show, that ain't happening. And the reason why it's not happening is because if it's on regular cable television and the ratings are a disaster, that sets back women's wrestling. No one's going to take that chance. AEW is not going to have a women's only TV show on TNT or TBS. You do it on a streaming platform where you don't have to reveal the total number of viewers, that's fine. But if it draws, I'm not saying it will draw a low number if they did it, but if it does, then you're kind of like giving people an ammunition. You see, this is the reason why men's wrestling is always more than the women. You don't want to open an unnecessary wound, in my opinion. So those are the reasons why I think Evolution 2 has fallen flat. Has nothing to do with Beyonce. You know, if anything, you know, a lot of the young women from NXT and maybe even one from LFG or Evolve that might be in a battle royal, you never know. They're going to be stuck in a battle royal. They're not really going to get an opportunity to really stand out. I mean, you look at these matches outside of, let me pull up the card again. Outside of JC Jane, ain't nobody else from NXT. Evolution? You know, imagine if Bret Hart used his whole career. I'm the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. What if he just said, I'm the best there is and ever will be? Doesn't give you that same kind of Or actually, better yet, I'm the best there was and the best there is. What about the future? You know, like, where's the future? You know, JC Jane is, and most people think JC Jane is going to lose. So, hey, it's just an opinion. Take it however you want. So before we open the floor, let's talk about Slamversary. And can I just give an honest opinion of TNA? By the way, very, very much appreciated. Somebody from TNA DM me. Anthony, if you want to come to Slamversary, you're welcome. Be our guest. Don't know if I would cover it press-wise, but don't know if I could go yet. Me and my wife are thinking about going to a softball game on that Saturday afternoon because one of my customers is a teacher for the school that they're going to be having it at, and she's actually going to be there. But we were thinking about going to the softball game and then heading over to Texas Roadhouse on Hempstead Turnpike afterwards. So, but can I give an honest little critique? Man, your graphic is awful. TNA, fire whoever did your graphics. Anybody look at the screen right now? You can't even read the word Slamversary. What a shit job with the graphics. I'm sorry for being a jerk about that, but that is just awful. It just doesn't stand out. Imagine if that was a WrestleMania logo. That's terrible. All right, so here's your card for Slamversary as of right now. And they have 7 matches announced. Probably add another 1, maybe 2, but this is pretty much the card. Trick Williams will defend the TNA World Championship against Joe Hendry and Mike Santana. Mike Santana is a homeboy. So did they insert Mike Santana for that New York pop? Maybe. I think we'll do predictions on Wednesday's news update. So Wednesday we'll do predictions for TNA. Moose will defend the X Division Championship against Leon Slater. The Nemeths will defend the TNA tag titles in a 4-way tag team ladder match. The other teams are the Hardys, the Rascals of Trey Miguel and Zach Wentz, and First Class of AJ Francis and Casey Navarro. And once again, props to AJ Francis, man. I thought that motherfucker was going to leave WWE. He was going to put 50 pounds back on, fucking do hip-hop and show sneakers and talk about sports all day long. That guy has really been committed to turn his shit into it. I'm not saying he's winning any gold. I'm not doing no predictions right now, but I give a lot of credit to AJ Francis. Tessa Blanchard, we're coming for you. She's taking on Indy Hartwell. That's an interesting match. And I think you will know why without me saying a word. Not going to get controversial here. Mustafa Ali will take on Cedric Alexander. The Elegance brand, Ash and Heather by Elegance, will defend the Knockouts tag titles against the Inspiration, formerly the Iconics. Iconic! People were throwing out this hint that the Iconics may be in the Battle Royal. I don't know if WWE should. I don't know if they should, for the simple reason that they're TNA now. You're talking about the evolution of WWE Women's Wrestling. They are currently in TNA. Why would you bring in TNA wrestlers that are not part of your company? They're not part of the evolution of WWE right now. I'm just giving an opinion. If I'm WWE, no, I don't bring them in. In fact, what's kind of lost about all of this, and yeah, I'll go there, Lacey Evans. Remember, Lacey Evans was the one several years ago that really started pushing Evolution 2. And a lot of people gave her name as credit for, originally push. You think WWE sent an invite to Lacey Evans? I don't think so. All right. Masha Slamovic, as you could see on your screen with the thumbnail and the very poor Slamversary logo. Masha Slamovic, who is the TNA Women's World Champion, will take on the winner of JC Jane and Jordan Grace, representing NXT. And the winner of this match takes it all. A woman will walk out, both the TNA Women's World Champion and the NXT Women's World Champion. Again, I'm not doing predictions right now, but I will leave a little nugget in your head. I'll leave two nuggets in your head to think about. Number one, be pretty damn interesting to see Jordan Grace representing NXT and TNA, especially since she just left TNA. That could set up a very, very, very interesting storyline sooner than later if she wins it. The second little nugget that I'm going to throw out there, and I'm not saying this is going to happen, but something you should be reminded of, and we brought it up on a history show this week. This week is the anniversary that Bob Backlund, who was the WWF champion at the time, took on Ric Flair, who was the NWA champion at the time. There was no concise winner. Back in the day, Bob Backlund fought Harley Race, who was the NWA World Champion. He fought Nick Bockwinkel, who was the AWA World Champion at the time. And they would tease champion versus champion. And most of the time, it would be a DQ, a no count out, no clear winner. I don't recall if any of them were winner take all. My point is, do not discount the possibility that this ends in a double count out or a double disqualification or a no contest. I think you don't want to do that if I'm TNA. Have a clear, concise winner. Just for me, though, as much as I enjoy JC Jane and as much as I'm kind of annoyed that Toxic Attraction never got the main roster push that they should have gotten, I just don't see JC Jane representing NXT and TNA. I don't. I feel JC Jane, to me is a tag team wrestler, and she's worked hard to become a singles star too, but she's not Mandy Rose. and this is not toxic attraction. This is fatal influence. Would be cool if Mandy Rose is in that battle royal. For one night, why not? I think Triple H would bring her back for one night. Put Mandy Rose in the battle royal. I would do it. I think you all would agree. So this is your current lineup. So we got a very busy next 1 to 2 weeks. Plus, we didn't talk about Raw, go home NXT, go home SmackDown, go home AEW. So we got a lot of wrestling to cover in the near future. So, all right. Before we open the floor in the chat, let me get into a couple of super shout outs. And I want to mention this one first because I see a Jay Cargill mentioned. T. Smitty. Jay Cargill is the latest woman to get hate from the IWC. She's improving. But what would my advice be to her as she gets nitpicked by the IWC? Water off a duck's back. Where's my duck? I don't know where my duck is. Oh. It's not a duck. It's a chicken. My chicken. Hey, this is Jay Cargill. It's water off the chicken's back. By the way, I found these license plates. They're in perfect condition. NWO Hollywood from 2000. These are real plates. Ass man, they're all like Hollywood stuff. I have like a ton of them. So we're probably going to give them away in the near future. I have no use for them. I don't know why I have them. So anyway, my advice to Jay Cargill would be ignore it. There's a very small audience out there that will never be happy. There are people out there that just enjoy putting other people down. There are people out there that are not fans of hers, and there'll always be that hate. They're looking for her to fail. And that's the thing that sucks about a lot of things about this world. I live in a country where there are tens of millions of people that want to see the country fail so a certain president could go down in history as being a failure. I'm not praising or putting down our president, but how awful is it that you'd rather see the country fail because you hate somebody that much? And it's not that level of hatred in wrestling, but there are people out there that want to see her fall on her fucking face just so they could say, told you, ha, ha, ha. Ignore him. Jay Cargill was brought in under a lot of pressure because of what she did in AEW. And they literally had to rebuild her. And WWE felt that she didn't need the NXT run. That could be debated till tomorrow. Personally, I would have rather have seen Jay Cargill work in NXT for 6 months to a year. But they chose to bring her right to the main roster. I think she's done a decent job. I don't want to start disrespecting anybody in WWE, but we've seen certain wrestlers who have like 25 out of the last 30 matches losses and they get a title shot out of nowhere, or they're competing in a tournament for a title. It's like this. She's no different. She's working hard. It doesn't feel like she's just winging it. So I would just say ignore those people. Personally, I think Jay Cargill is doing fine. She's a work in progress, and she's still, understand this. She was in AEW for many years, and I'm not saying this to criticize AEW, but she developed a lot of bad habits because no one there, was there to really pick apart, the things that were wrong. So when you do that for a couple of years, listen, I was not good at what I did in being a manager in indie wrestling, and even when I did anything physically. But one thing that you learn in wrestling is that things have to be split-second decisions. Things come second nature. And the thing is that you can't consciously think about every little thing you do, because you know what happens? It kills your timing. If you have to literally have to take in and absorb, just imagine it's like right now using a Windows 98 computer online. Go have fun. Go on YouTube and with a Windows 98 computer and see how that turns out. You know, you can't, it's got to be second nature, split second decisions. And that's not quickly, easily done for some people. It takes years and years and years. And unfortunately for some women and men, it never happens. You know who's kind of changing my mind? Dana Brooke. That was the thing I said about Dana Brooke's entire WWE career. Her timing was one and a half seconds off. And you would see it. She just was not smooth. Now you see in TNA, the timing is starting to get there. Not perfect yet, but she's starting to get there. And when you get your timing down and you don't even have to think about things, that's when it becomes a lot less pressure. Okay, let's stay on the wrestling standpoint. Chainsaw Charlie. Tony Khan says that he's considered renaming the Ring of Honor brand. What do I think is Ring of Honor's biggest problem? I saw the Tony Khan interview. He did not say he's considered it. You could ask Tony Khan, listen, did you ever think about having the shows offer all vegan at the concession stand? And he would say to you, that's a very good question. And right now, AEW has been on a hot streak, and Collision's been great, and we're having the best year ever, and that's something that we could think about. But right now, we're really concerned about All In and the biggest show we've ever done, and blah 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 blah. You could talk about anything right now, and Tony Khan will always say, "That's a great question. That's something we could think about, and that's something I've considered, but blah, 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 we're doing this, we're doing that, greatest year ever, blah, 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 blah." That's what he does. He did not consider rebranding Ring of Honor. What I think Ring of Honor's biggest problem is two things. They have no identity. A lot of wrestlers that are in Ring of Honor pop up on Collision, pop up on Dynamite, and it doesn't feel like it's a truly split roster. They have no identity, zero. It feels like, it's like you look at Main Event for the WWE. Is there a different promotion for Main Event? No. But some wrestlers get stuck on Main Event more often than not. So it just feels like Ring of Honor is AEW's version of Main Event. And it sucks because you have people there like, Athena, perfect example. Talk about someone who was trying to build her own identity as a Ring of Honor superstar, and you can't do that with two or three people. People to this day still think Mark Briscoe is a Ring of Honor star. It just, there's no identity. And the second problem, and I've been saying this for 15 years, maybe more, we have the whole DTKC vault to back it up. I got 20 years of shows to back this shit up. Ring of Honor was always a small niche promotion. The only time Ring of Honor drew big crowds is WrestleMania weekend. They averaged 500 fans, 600 fans. During the Samoa Joe days, during the Bryan Danielson days, during the Sami Zayn and Kevin Steen days, during the Adam Cole days, and even when CM Punk was there, you get some cards, 800 fans, but for the most part, 500 fans, 600 fans. Look at the old school Ring of Honor. Some of the greatest matches, Dave Meltzer gave 19.5 stars. Look at how many people tune in. It was always a small promotion, and he's trying to force it to be bigger, and it's just not. It's just not. That's their problem. Ring of Honor was just like NXT. If NXT went on the road every single week, unless you put TNA stars on there, very huge matches, and start moving away of what NXT truly is, you're going to have a very difficult time drawing 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 on a consistent weekly basis. They had to cancel an event not too long ago because ticket sales were so. Look at Florida. Anybody ever pay attention to NXT's house shows in Florida? NXT does do house shows in Florida. They draw 150. Blake Monroe had her first in-ring match for NXT like 2 weeks ago in front of 200 fans. 200 fans. So Ring of Honor was always a small promotion. And just because you put a billionaire behind it doesn't mean all of a sudden you're going to get, thousands and thousands of people on consistently to tune in. So it just doesn't have an identity. Their biggest first, and listen, no one within AEW will tell them that. No one in the media will tell them that. The only people, you can't even have social media tell them that because you'll just be labeled as a hater. But there's enough fans out there who have been saying that, and they're not a hater. They just don't have an identity. That's Ring of Honor's biggest problem, in my honest opinion. All right, Jay Paulin. If they do Punk Rollins at SummerSlam, what match stipulation do I think they should do? Boy, I'm not feeling that at all. I mean, they've done Punk Rollins, the first Netflix. They did, the problem is they did Punk Rollins. They did the cage match already, if I remember correctly. Do you dare do Hell in a Cell? I don't like the idea. You know what? You know where I could see this going? Maybe you do Punk Gunther at SummerSlam, and then Seth Rollins cashes in. I know it's surprise, and everybody loves the surprise. Music hits out of nowhere. I'm going to cash in. I'm going to cash. And then the crowd starts losing their shit. Oh, my God, it's a cash in. Every time they do that, people pop like crazy. It could be the biggest asshole there. Baron Corbin could have, last week, I'm going to cash in. Everybody starts popping because it's a surprise. Surprise! Yay! If Seth Rollins is a true heel and you don't want that surprise mega pop reaction because he's going to cash in, let Seth Rollins announce a week before, Punk, I'm going to ruin your match against Gunther. I'm announcing I'm cashing in, and it's now a three-way. Do Gunther versus Punk versus Rollins at SummerSlam. That's what I would do. And that makes it more interesting because Punk could pin Rollins and Gunther lose the championship. Rollins could pin Punk and Gunther loses the championship. I'm not trying to think that far ahead, but I would do Punk, Gunther, and then have Rollins announce he's cashing in, but do it a week or two in advance. So it sounds like Punk is fucking over CM Punk. I don't want to see the surprise because everybody will pop for the surprise. And yes, WWE's more about surprises now, so they'll probably go that route, but that's what I would do. I don't want to see Punk. Let me put it this way. They've done Punk and Rollins already more than once. So how do you sneak in Punk Rollins again without people being like, oh my God, again? My God. No, my God, I can't. You just have Rollins gonna not only fuck up CM Punk's chance, but he's gonna beat Gunther also. That's what I would do. Want to give a special shout out to Theme Parks and Things with Johnny, celebrating 42 months as a made member of the family here on YouTube. Thank you, my friend, for being a member. Much love. And you do more than just YouTube. I know that. I acknowledge you. I acknowledge you. I was listening this past week in history. The episode was the anniversary, the 2-year anniversary. It's already been 2 years, everybody. The tribal court of the tribal chief. Remember when Roman Reigns went on trial? The tribal court? At the very end, I acknowledge you, my tribal chief. I acknowledge you. I acknowledge you. Kept saying it over and over. You hear him in the back, I acknowledge you. 2 years already. Time flies. So that's what I would do, Jay, with SummerSlam. Peter Grippo from Brooklyn. Thoughts on a big, beautiful bill being passed? Very happy about it. All the tax cuts that we've been enjoying since 2017 remain. I know everybody is complaining about how big the bill is and everything. Half of it is the tax cuts. Here in New York, I've been talking about that SALT tax deduction for New York, Chicago, California, all the blue states that Trump hates. They raised that SALT deduction to $40,000 instead of $10,000, which is great. What that means is that all the state and local taxes that you claim off your taxes to federal, in the past you could deduct up to $10,000. Now you could deduct up to $40,000. I like that there's no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. I like that senior citizens, their first certain amount of money is not taxable. I don't remember the exact amount, but it's enough. I mean, let me put it this way. I do a lot of taxes every year, and many people I do it for are elderly because they don't use computers. And I look at their Social Security statements. And I think the biggest monthly check I've seen of somebody for Social Security getting like $2,400 a month. So what is that, $26,000 a year? So now most of that is tax-free. So those are the things more than anything else. As far as adding to the debt, this is how I look at it. If we're bringing in more money, it takes care of that. You know, that's how I look at it. And as far as, you know, Medicaid being cut, if you read the fine print, if you have hardship, if you're making under a certain amount of money, or if you have a kid and you can't work for some reason, you still keep it. What they're doing now is, look, if you're 40 years old and you're on TikTok all day long and you're YouTubing as a social media influencer, and you want to have Medicaid, and you'd be shocked at how many of them do. No. If you're an able-bodied person that could work, then you don't need Medicaid. You pay like everybody else. Medicaid is supposed to be for those that are desperately in need of it, the ones who do make very little money, the ones who are disabled, the ones who are elderly, the ones who are poor, the ones who are single parents, single moms with a bunch of kids. That's what Medicaid is designed for. Not for someone who just decides, I'm going to just sit at home all day and game. And then, I could go get a prescription for $1. So, more money comes in, takes care of the deficit. We'll see. 6 years from now. 6 months from now, I should say. We will see 6 months from now. Julius Tillery, any recent incidents of bad New York drivers and recent nightmare car insurance claims? Not really for me. I mean, the one thing that has been a huge problem where I live is how many people that are smoking joints, marijuana, while driving. I kid you not, almost every single time I'm out during the day in my car, and if I'm driving more than 15 minutes, I'll have my vents on and my air conditioning going, and suddenly the inside of my car smells like weed. And somebody in front of me is smoking up while they're driving. That's been the biggest thing more than anything. That's why I am petrified of getting pulled over and a cop saying, your car smells like weed. I don't smoke. That's been the biggest problem. Other than that, and I don't write car insurance much anymore. Car insurance right now and where I live is mostly Geico, State Farm, Allstate, and a little Progressive. And I don't write with any of them. So car insurance, I stay away from. I don't write much of any car. I do commercial car insurance, but on the personal side, those 4 companies are the ones that pretty much handle this area. I have Geico myself. And I don't even write with Geico. My own companies, I can't even get a good price. And my license is clean. And I can't get a good price. So personal car insurance, I stay away from. Even when people call me up, I say, look, I got assigned risk. The only companies I really deal with are people that really can't find insurance anywhere else. And those rates are astronomical. So I have one elderly guy right now that had 3 accidents. One was his fault, two were not his fault, and he's paying $9,000 a year for full coverage for a 2015 Honda. He wants full coverage, $9,000, and he's paying it. He's paying it. All right. Did I get into everybody's questions? Yeah, I think we did. Well, Scorpio 1117 just sent one in. I will get into yours now. Thank you very much. He was at AEW Dynamite in Collision last Wednesday. Megan Bayne is a freaking monster in person. Her speed, athleticism, and strength gives him chills. You know, I look at Megan Bayne and I get Jade Cargill vibes. Yes, she is more advanced than where Jade Cargill was in AEW. My problem, hold on, I almost lost you there. My problem with Megan Bayne is, let me put it this way. Since you went and you saw her, does it feel like AEW is going to treat her in that category that consists of Toni Storm, Mariah May, who's no longer there, Mercedes Moné, maybe Chris Statlander to an extent? Like, I feel that AEW sees that she's a monster, but I don't feel that AEW's looking at her and like, that's our Brock Lesnar of the women's division. You know, she's got to start. I just feel like, no. We have Mercedes Moné. It's Mercedes Moné and everybody else. You know, Toni Storm has done a wonderful job with her character. But never forget, my friends, and for those that may have forgotten or may not have heard me say this before, which I brought up at least 4 times in the past, go look at Toni Storm's championship run when she had the belt. You'll be shocked at how many big names she never faced. Yes, when she had the second run, it was a lot different. But the first run that she had, that extended run, go look at her opponents. You'll be quite shocked at who she faced. And you'll be like, oh, wow, sure feels like a lot of smoke and mirrors here. I just feel that, you know, they have somebody special, but unfortunately, you got that big, beautiful wall, which is Toni Storm and Mercedes Moné. I just don't see her breaking through anytime soon. So what does she do? She gets in, you know, she gets like someone random will come out, or she'll come out randomly and get in the face of, I don't know, Thunder Rosa. Then the next week, somebody cuts a promo about it. Then a week later, it's her and teaming up with Penelope Ford against some bullshit team, and they get squashed. And then a week later, there's a challenge, her versus Thunder Rosa. And then it ends up however it does. And then a week off, and then next thing you know, she shows up and somebody else confronts her, or somebody just randomly pops out. And then you get a week of promos, and then another week of an interview segment. And then you get a squash match. Next thing you know, 3 months went by, 4 months went by, and you'd be like, not really pushing her, you know. That's how I feel, and I brought that up before, and I just feel like they don't look at her and see she's money. She not Monet, she's money. She is our future Brock Lesnar of the women's division. That's somebody special. No, it kind of feels like, all right, we found our next like woman that could just squash people. You know, and when she has to fight bigger names, Tony Khan, I don't have the heart to tell Thunder Rosa she's losing in 2.5 minutes. I don't have the heart to tell blah, 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 that she's losing in 45 seconds. You know, she could defeat Mary Lamb. Mary Lamb. She could be Mary Lamb in 15 seconds, but a name about, no, I can't do that to that person. I'm afraid. No, 7 minutes, 9 minutes, 11 minutes. So I don't know if you got that same vibe, but I just feel like AEW is not looking at her like, stop the presses. We fucking found our Goldberg. And I know she's more talented in the women's division compared to Goldberg back then. But sometimes you get a freak of nature that comes by that people are just getting into. And then you got to realize, okay, we got to change some plans here. Emergency meeting. Does it feel like Tony Khan's having any emergency meetings for Megan Bain? I don't think so. That's my honest take on that. Shout out to Havili. I hope you checked out Patreon this week. I think I answered your question first. WWE's doing a top 25 greatest SummerSlam matches of all time. In my opinion, what will be number one? Would I consider the first time the fans, when would I consider the first time the fans started booing John Cena? NWO, DX, or The Shield? He's asking me to compare the three. All right, couple of things. Top 25 greatest SummerSlam matches of all time. I can't answer that right now because I have to revisit and look at the 25 years of SummerSlam. I will definitely answer that right at the beginning of next Sunday's show. In fact, I think what I'll do, which I used to do and we haven't done in a long time, I will do a poll and I'll sticky it and I'll put the top five, my top five, and I'll let everybody vote on what they would choose as their top SummerSlam match. I will go check out the last 25 years. You know, there's some. I think a SummerSlam 88 stands out if you really want to go old school. I mean, there's definitely a plethora of SummerSlam matches. So I will, Triple H and Shawn Michaels 2002 was a lot better than I think what many of us expected at the time. That was great. I remember the vignettes. That's when we started getting some black and white vignettes. I remember that. There was some black and white. I'm like, what the fuck's this black and white shit? You know, but I understood why they were doing that. Yeah. SummerSlam 92, Brett and Davey, overseas. That was massive. There's some great choices, seriously. As far as the NWO, D-Generation X, and The Shield, as far as my favorite, definitely Shield would be number 3. I enjoyed The Shield. Don't get me wrong. I enjoyed The Shield, but I enjoyed the Wyatt family more than I enjoyed The Shield. So I can't put The Shield any higher. NWO and D-Generation X was so different. NWO felt cool. And, you know, it was just, I liked the way it was done early on. But then when they started adding so many members, it really got old fast. I'll tell you the truth. I'm going to go with D-Generation X first. We just talked about when they brought it back in the mid-2000s with Shawn Michaels and Triple H, and I felt that they were middle-aged, and it was just, the comedy was not hitting in some spots. Remember when they was making fun of Candice LeMichelle and doing some sexual innuendos, and, you know, Vince loves cock and spray painting the Titan Towers. You know, it was fun and, you know, overall, but, you know, it just felt like it was jumping the shark at times. But the original DX, that was different, man. I mean, it was just funny, like going to places, even people you don't know. Hey, suck it. Even little kids going to school. Teacher says, did you do your homework? No, I didn't do your homework. Go see the principal. Hey, Mrs. Michaels, suck it. Even little kids that didn't even know what it means. Ma, what does it mean to suck it? I got 2 words for you. So you can't see. I have to minimize it for a second. Now you can see it. So for me, DX would be one. Plus, the New Age Outlaws deserve a lot of credit, man. The New Age Outlaws is one of the most popular tag teams in the last 25 years. And, you know, they don't get, you know, much love anymore. Yeah, look, Billy Gunn's in AEW, I get it, but New Age Outlaws were so over, and he didn't have to do that much. Like, I've never investigated Meltzer ratings for New Age Outlaw matches, but I would think maybe 3.5 stars on one. So, of those three. And when do I think fans started booing John Cena? Well, they were booing Cena during Thugonomics, but he became cool. I mean, when he started doing the rhymes and always would end in something that rhymed with, sick, and he'd hold the mic up, then he started getting over. I think fans started booing Cena when it felt like they were forcing him to be that guy. I remember early on when he started feuding with people like JBL and Edge and others, especially Christian. The feud that always will stand out to me is Christian Cage. That pissed off a lot of fans at that time because Christian organically started getting more over than Cena, and you felt like WWE really pulled Christian back just so Cena could get that edge, no pun intended, and fans were very bitter about that. I think Cena, it started gradually, when people started feeling like especially when he stopped doing a lot of the raps and he started being more about, not for the kids, but being more, PG. It just, people started like, okay, I get it. The limousine blew up and, we had some tragedies and obviously, there was some controversy with steroids, and especially, with the, can't remember that case. Anybody remember the case? Remember, I think Eddie, be all due respect, Eddie Guerrero, Batista, and a bunch of other, Signature Pharmacy, that's what it was. Signature Pharmacy, I remember. Go look up the Signature Pharmacy scandal. That shit's crazy. Because when you look back on it, you really understand these motherfuckers were all buying roids through the dark web. So, I think little by little, fans started to slowly drift away from Cena. And then, after a while, they were just like, nah, man, you're not going to force this. And WWE just kept forcing it. But listen, at the end of the day, people understood that Cena was the workhorse for WWE. I'll never forget it. He had a match against JBL. He bled so much. Believe it or not, I still have 2 pictures that a photographer took and gave the photos to Georgie Ann Macropolis, God rest her soul, and she sent them to me. They've never been made public. And he is so bloodied. I remember Jericho, I don't know if it was Smoky Mountain Wrestling. I think it was Smoky Mountain Wrestling, but I remember a match with Jericho. He teamed up with Lance Storm as the Thrill Seekers. And Jericho bled so bad that I've never seen somebody bleed to that level. That's how much he bled. More than Bill Alfonso in ECW that time against Beulah. But when I saw this good quality photo of Cena, and I know there's some photos public, I said to myself, if that doesn't get him over because how much he bled for that championship, and he still got booed. He still got shitted on. And it was difficult time. Look at Roman Reigns, man. I mean, many years ago, but remember, they had a very hard time getting Roman Reigns over as a babyface. They put him up against every single heel and nothing would work. Nothing would work. Nothing would work. And then if we're going to go there, and let's be honest, leukemia is what turned him babyface. That's really what turned him babyface. He was getting some cheers, make no mistake about it. I just revisited the history of him feuding with Bobby Lashley. And he was getting a decent amount of cheers. You look back at that feud, it is very goofy. especially when Roman Reigns dove over the top rope onto a whole bunch of like 35 people on Raw, and they just like dominoes just went down. It looked goofy, but it still got a nice little pop off of it. So, it took Roman Reigns quite a bit to get over. So, but I think where Cena turned it around was when he was the United States champion. I think that was the turning point of Cena. Because when Cena fought Sami Zayn and Cena fought Kevin Owens, especially when Kevin Owens stepped on the U.S. title, if you go back and you look at those matches, even AJ Styles, maybe his feud with AJ Styles was really where Cena turned that corner. Because Cena started doing shit that we were like, I never saw Cena do this before. Like, holy shit. Like, he's doing things we are. And then you realized, wow, Cena actually can do a lot more in the ring. They just prolonged his career by having him do little, just like Hulk Hogan. You ever watch a match of Hulk Hogan in Japan? You would think either the Yakuza had his family hostage, brother, you gotta fucking work tonight, brother, or else you either had the Yakuza had his family hostage, or Hogan was getting paid a boatload of money, or Hogan realized, let me put it this way. I know this is gonna piss off some people, but when Hulk Hogan went to Japan in the 90s, late 80s, there was probably 35,000 Japanese fans, like when he went to Japan and thought he was going to do this and, like flex. You had 40,000 Japanese fans going, that don't work for me, brother. Hogan realized, that don't work for me, brother. And he's like, I can't do that shit over here. He had to work. He had to work his ass off. Really, thank you for your generosity, my friend. You don't have to do that, but I appreciate it, and it goes for very good causes. He says, by the way, if I figured out my celebrity hall pass, if Brock Lesnar wasn't the one to end the Undertaker streak, would it have been Roman Reigns, Bray Wyatt, or have the Undertaker retired undefeated? What would I consider the best pie this year so far? Favorite wrestlers turned actor. The best pie this year? Don't super chat this post. You just talking about cake? For me, pie, cake. My favorite pie, chocolate cream. Chocolate cream. Oh, duh. People on audio are going to be like, wow, DT, you're a Polak. It's PLE, not PIE. The type is very small on my screen. Well, anyway, chocolate cream pie is my favorite pie. Although in the wintertime, when we get to Thanksgiving, pumpkin pie all the way. Especially when it has walnuts on top. My favorite premium live event this year so far. Favorite premium live event. I'm thinking right now because I'm leaning towards Elimination Chamber. I mean, I'm trying not to say WrestleMania, obviously, because WrestleMania was 2 nights. Elimination Chamber was good, but the Royal Rumble, though, that finish with Jey Uso and John Cena was pretty fucking good, man. You know what? I got to go with the Royal Rumble. The Royal Rumble did not have the level of surprises that we thought we were going to get, but what was done in the ring was done very, very well. Wow, we got a lot of pie being mentioned in the chat right now. And of course, the poontang pie. Oatmeal cream is a good one. Cherry pie. We're getting a lot of votes for the Royal Rumble as well. To me, I think Chamber and Rumble are close 1-2. I would go with Rumble first, Chamber second. I thought if you take away Travis Scott, I would probably go with Chamber. I still don't understand the reasoning for that moment where they had to put him in the ring. it just, man, if he was working out and training and tries to do a Bad Bunny or something like that, and we look back and like, you know what, that I didn't like it, but that motherfucker worked his ass off and he's taking his medicine and he's getting his ass kicked and he's bumping like a motherfucker, then I would feel different. But this felt like a social media grab. I'm not saying that Travis Scott is not a wrestling fan, and I'm not saying that he's not a great performer. I know a lot of you really like his work. But this felt like, man, we'll get so much publicity off this guy. It was just a moment that I think it backfired for WWE because we were having that vibe of, like Netflix. Like front row, they'd be plugging like 15 people every week, and it's 90% of them nobody gave a fuck about. You get like one celebrity or one sports guy, and then you got, he's got an upcoming series on Netflix. He's got an upcoming series on Netflix. Look at her. She's got an upcoming series. Netflix. And we were like, man, and then you see all the logos in the ring. Now tables got logos on it. This has a logo has a logo. Soon we're going to have this Taco Bell advertisement is brought to you by McDonald's. We're going to have logos having sex with logos and then giving birth to new logos. It just felt like WWE started whoring themselves out for views. And, what about us? And I think, to their credit, I think they have pulled back, and I think they've realized, okay, hold your horses, brother. So that's why I go Rumble first, Chamber second. My Celebrity Hall Pass, I haven't figured it out. We've talked a lot about celebrities recently. We talked about our crushes last week. Man, props to all of you out there that were bringing up celebrity crushes that I totally forgot about. Forgot about that chick from Saved by the Bell. People were bringing up Phoebe Cates. Wow, that's a good one, man. Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I mean, if we had 4K back then, forget it. I'll definitely, next week when we do the top 5 of SummerSlam, I'll give you my Celebrity Hall Pass. Marissa Tomei was a great one. I think we did mention her, but she's definitely a good one too. She's still beautiful. She is still beautiful. There's so many from back then. Kind of shocked how many back then. I mean, people were bringing up names afterwards. I was like, oh my God, I totally forgot about this person. Yeah. If The Undertaker didn't lose to Lesnar, would he have lost to Reigns, Bray Wyatt, or retire undefeated? If it was up to me, Undertaker would have retired undefeated. Him retiring undefeated would be a trillion times different than Sting retiring undefeated in AEW. We love Sting. We thank Tony Khan for convincing Sting to unretire and wrestle. His work was fun. But this was a case, listen, I'm not trying to throw any shade towards Sting, but for some reason, sometimes we look at legends as altar boys. Sometimes we look at our favorites of all time that they can do no wrong. Look back at Sting's AEW run. How many times did he say to his agent who talked to Tony Khan, that doesn't work for me, brother? We'll have you do this. That doesn't work for me, brother. Well, we'll do that. That doesn't work for me, brother. All right, so we'll have you team up with Darby Allin, and, you can fight any way you want. If you don't feel like leaving your feet, you don't have to, and we'll have Sting's rules, and, hey, I've never dove off a cliff before. I like to go through 3 tables. Sting, do whatever you want. You are the GOAT. You are the GOAT. You do whatever you want. I don't want to lose a match. That doesn't work for me, brother. Okay, you'll retire undefeated. In fact, we'll even put the championship on you. And what we'll do is we'll have Meltzer and a whole bunch of people say that Sting was willing to drop the titles before he retired. That works for me, brother. Doesn't make Sting any less of a person. But for some reason, I think people think that he should be Pope John Sting III. Like, when did people think that suddenly Sting was this, like a saint? He's a businessman. So you look at Sting's AEW run, it was like a video game. You saw it. I mean, there was one time I remember, like, he left his feet. And I think Mike, well, no, we're not going to go there. No. Happy 40th anniversary, Back to the Future. I remember, what is he fighting? Private Party? Now, if that is true, that shows you how bad that spot was. I think Sting was in a tag match against Private Party, and he took a move in the corner. And I was just like, oh, now I know why he ain't bumping. I was like, oh, boy, it just looked awful. I would have had Undertaker retire undefeated. Undertaker had enough matches where people were blown away by the performances. And he lost many matches. At WrestleMania, where it counted, he made sure that he prevailed. I just think the merchandise itself, it never goes out of style. Undefeated. It never goes out of style. Undefeated, period. They could come out undefeated. Look at this new undefeated. Look, we got license plates now. Undefeated. NFT coins. Remember all the NFT stuff? They could have still been making money off of the fact that he retired at WrestleMania undefeated. Yes, the botch table spot was also scary, but he wanted to try it. Whatever Sting wanted to do, he did. And I could just imagine those conversations with Tony. You're the GOAT. Do whatever you want. You have total control. Do whatever you want. And honestly, the wrestlers that were in the ring with Sting, you think they were going to suddenly go into business for them? So you think they were going to pull a Paul Roma on him? Like I'm going to treat him like Alex Wright. No, they were just, I had the privilege to work with one of the greatest of all time. So the wrestlers that got to work with Sting, they loved the fact that they were in there with him. So nobody was going to go rogue and try to expose him. If Sting fucked up, it's because Sting fucked up, not because someone tried to expose him. That's awesome. We have someone in the chat right now, I kid you not, that says, you could say that about most, though. And the name in the chat, Hulk Hogan. That's fucking priceless, man. That's great. Yeah, you could say that about a lot of legends, but you don't have many legends that have like more than 2-3 matches that come back and they win everything. Like, that motherfucker won everything. You look at Mercedes Moné. Outside of 2 tag matches with, who was a tag partner? Mercedes Moné's lost 2 matches in AEW. And both times it was a tag match. And she was not the one that got the pin. Whose was it again? I can't remember her name right now. She's still there. Someone will remember. But shit, I'm drawing a freaking blank. But look at Mercedes Moné. Who's going to be that one person to dethrone her? They're turning her into their Ultimo Dragon. For today's purposes, people will say, oh, she's their Roman Reigns. Harley Cameron, thank you, Havili. Yeah, the only 2 times Mercedes Moné ever lost in AEW were tag matches and Harley Cameron was the victim. So you look at Mercedes Moné. I mean, the difference between Mercedes Moné and Sting, other than the obvious, is that Mercedes Moné has been putting on good matches. I would have had Undertaker retire undefeated. And my favorite wrestler turned actor, you know what? He didn't have many movie roles. But I will always go with Roddy Piper. Because the movie They Live is my favorite movie of all time that featured a wrestler as the star. I mean, there's plenty of movies where a wrestler had a role in it. Rocky III, I fucking love that movie. And Hulk Hogan only had 7 minutes of it. But as far as a movie that features a wrestler as the main actor, Roddy Piper and They Live. It's such an awesome movie, and you still feel like it's relevant today. If you hate Democrats, you'll say this is what Democrats try to do. They try to, give you everything, and so they brainwash you. And then if you hate Republicans, you could say, oh, well, the Republicans are doing this and doing that. And if you're suddenly Elon Musk, it's both of them. It's so relevant to today. And remember that scene on They Live at the very end? Remember that guy with the beard? Remember that guy with the beard at the very end? Roddy Piper's there with the other guy, and they have the guns. And the guy's like, come on, just enjoy it. Just what's the problem? Like, yeah, and Roddy Piper ended up shooting the satellite and fucking everything up. But that guy, to me, represents politicians today. I'm not trying to get political, but there's a guy right now running for mayor in New York called Zohran Mamdani. If you listen to him close, he just wants to give everybody everything they want, and he wants to just get rid of just radical things. Don't know how you're going to pay for anything, but just give everything. And this reminds me of that, like, come on, don't spoil it. Everybody's having fun. Don't worry about it. To me, the movie They Live is so relevant today because it represents politicians. 30 trillion. Actually, that bearded guy could be Elon Musk. Only without 19 children. Because I don't think anybody was having sex with that bearded guy. He looked like he smelled. That's what politics are today. Savvy Gambit, long time no see, my friend. Hello. So I hope that was a good choice for you. If you've never seen the movie They Live, my friends, I promise you, if you watch it, you will enjoy it. I will say this about the movie They Live, and I think everybody will agree with me. You got to get through the first 15 minutes. And if you don't know what I mean, the first 15 minutes are boring. It's basically trying to set up the picture that Roddy Piper is homeless, has no job, and he's trying to find work. And he's trying to find like a room and board. So for 15 minutes, pretty much nothing is happening to try to set up desperation and poverty and people going against the government. So the first 15 minutes, all you hear is music and Roddy Piper walking. You get past those 15 minutes, you'll be like, don't skip it. Don't skip it. They Live is absolutely relevant in 2025. It's a brilliant movie, man. I tell you the truth, I'm going to be changing my backdrop soon. I notice over there, the heads are cut off. Yeah, that's Eddie Guerrero, just too high. That's the Hart Foundation. That's Taz. We're going to be changing it up. But I have a beautiful poster of They Live that I want to put in the backdrop. So, yeah, the music is great in They Live. A guy just died that did like a lot of soundtracks from Mission Impossible to the fucking, I think Men in Black series. He was just like, I looked at this guy's resume. I was like, holy shit. It's really like he's just like in his 90s. So I don't remember his name, but big deal. All right. Roderick is asking which heel run has been more disappointing to me, Cena or the New Day? Whew, that's a good one. I would lean towards Cena because nobody believes it. And this was on the heels of Triple H and Rock reminding us that we're watching characters in the ring. The New Day, look, do I really think that Kofi Kingston's mother, you know what I'm saying? Like some of it was a little goofy. You remember when the whole roster was so upset with the New Day, like nobody wanted to be around them. Like even if Putin was in the back, stay away from me. You're the dirtbag. Like everybody wanted to stay away from the New Day. Now all of a sudden they can wander around and hang out and everything. I think the New Day have done a much better job. It's just, they're more skits than anything else. I mean, they only have one title defense before they lost them. I would go with Cena only because nobody believes it. But now it's changing, and you know why it's changing? I don't know if anybody caught on to it. Cena's match with Punk, if you listen closely to Cena's promos, it was more directed to Punk. Before, it was more of the fans using Cena for 20, 25 years, whatever it was. Now it's more towards the opponent. He still shitted on the fans, but it was more directed to CM Punk. And that, to me, was a breath of fresh air, because Cena it doesn't feel like he's trying to sabotage WWE anymore. You know, yes, he's the last real champion and all that, but now it's starting to shift. So I can accept it a little bit more, but I would go with Cena because nobody believes it. Nobody believes it at all. Bobby Means would like to know, what is my favorite type of chocolate? And what if the Montreal Screwjob never happened? I started my hotline in a couple of months before the Montreal Screwjob. And boy, was that fun covering. If the Montreal Screwjob never happened, you know, Brett would have still went to WCW. Owen Hart, unfortunately, would have tragically passed not too long afterwards. So those elements would still, unfortunately, have happened, most likely. The Mr. McMahon character would not have been born the way it did. I still believe, though, with Steve Austin on the horizon, Mr. McMahon still would have existed. Listen, Vince screwed Brett. I know Brett screwed Brett, but no, Vince screwed Brett. But if Brett would have left on better terms, Vince would have screwed Austin. And I think that would have still, I mean, listen, obviously it changed the course of history. Because maybe Owen would have left. And maybe he wouldn't have tried. Like, you can't predict the chain of events that would have followed. But I will say this. I think Mr. McMahon character still would have been around because of Steve Austin. And I believe Bret Hart would have still had a rather shitty career in WCW because that's just the way the cards were dealt. I don't think Bret, listen, Bret was devastated when his brother passed, but I don't think that affected Bret Hart in the ring. Like, Bret still, Bret suffered tragedy, and I don't think that suddenly caused him to be the mediocre. It was just WCW. You see wrestlers that could excel in one promotion, go to another, and for some reason it doesn't work. It happens. So I think things still would have happened, but obviously there would have been a different path. You still would have been able to get to that destination, but it would have been a different path. And my favorite chocolate, milk chocolate. I hate dark chocolate. I hate bitter chocolate. I like, I'll eat Lily's. Lily's is sweetened with stevia. Even though I'm not on keto anymore, I don't like having sugar much. I'll tell everybody a little bit about me. I mentioned on Patreon Thursday that I'm being treated now for GERD, G-E-R-D. It's not fun. GERD sucks. And I'm learning now, like, sweet stuff, it's a big no-no for GERD. And soda, even diet, big no-no. And I'm on this medication now, and we bought Chinese food. I'll tell you a quick story. We bought Chinese food. And on the 4th of July, we're eating Chinese food. And, the Chinese restaurant gave us a bunch of free Pepsis. I haven't had sugary soda in years. Even when I went off keto, I drink Coke Zero. So I said, all right, let me have this bottle of soda. And then I had pistachio ice cream after. Right now, I'm rubbing my kidney area, and it feels like I have sunburn. I had excruciating pain that I almost went to the hospital. I had to call urgent care, and I went down there, and they asked me everything I've been taking. Have you taken anything new? I said, yeah, I just got a prescription of pantoprazole. And they're like, what did you eat? And I told them, like, yeah, you had all this sugary stuff all of a sudden, and that and the medication and the GERD, it fucked up my kidney. It did a number on my kidney. And they're like, just take a day or two and, it should clear up. And today I feel a lot better. But even when I touch it, it feels like I took the sun today and decided to cover my entire body except for just my kidney area on one side. Like I had a towel all over my whole body except for my kidney area. It was the only thing that's exposed. Not fun. How we got on that, I don't even know. But, all right. Douche. So yeah, I like chocolate with stevia. I'm not a big sugary guy. Although if you give me Reese's peanut butter cups, I'll eat 15 of them. Monk fruit is a good sweetener. I use Splenda in my coffee. Liquid Splenda. Awesome. I'm not a big sugary guy. I don't like sugar. But I had an overload of it on 4th of July, and you have no idea yesterday, man. Seriously. I don't want to go really retro, bringing up a show example, but I couldn't even move yesterday. I thought I threw out my back. That's how bad it was. And sure enough, no, it was a bad reaction between the medication and GERD and my kidney. So, bad side effect. All right, douche. Monk fruit sweetener is a good replacement for sugar, and it doesn't mess you up like artificial. I like monk fruit. I wish xylitol was safe around animals. We don't keep xylitol in the house. It's poisonous. If your pet eats even a drop of xylitol, it can kill him. Xylitol is a great sweetener, but once I found that it's poisonous for dogs, doesn't even enter my house. So, Tristan, one of my thoughts on the Attitude Era segment where the trans guy was trying to seduce Mark Henry backstage. If I remember correctly, the lights went out. Didn't Mark Henry realize that he had a package or something like that? They did a lot of stupid shit back then. Listen, give Mark Henry credit. That motherfucker, remember Sexual Chocolate with China. Sexual Chocolate. You think of him trying to throw the moves to certain women. I remember Eddie Guerrero with China Mamacita. Mae Young stuff he did the stuff with, he thought he was with another woman and it wasn't. I tell you, I'm not trying to change the subject, but I mentioned on the history show this week. You check out this week's history show, one thing you'll realize, Vince McMahon was fucked up during the Attitude Era, during the 4th of July, where everybody's proud of their country. He's got Muhammad Hassan simulating a beheading. He's got Chavo Guerrero, trying to be middle-aged white guy. Like, they did some really controversial shit during that time. It's pretty interesting. Like, where we're supposed to be most patriotic, like Vince would throw curveballs. I mean, listen, I've seen movies where somebody picks up someone and they think it's a girl and it's a guy. I've seen awful episodes on Forensic Files. Anybody remember the episode on Forensic Files? The guy with the yellow Camaro? And he drank over his friend's house, and they brought a woman in there. I guess like it was supposed to be a stripper. He started fooling around with the girl, and everybody was laughing at him. And it turned out they all knew that he was a guy. He didn't know. It's like, you hear tragic stories like that. You hear tragedies where someone, is trans, and then they pretend they play off that they're a real woman. In fact, I remember watching a crime episode not too long ago where a guy who was trans was dating another guy for like 7 months and never revealed that he was a man. And after 7 months, other guy fell in love with him. And when he found out that she was really a he killed her. It's crazy. I don't like joking about stuff like that. Like, I remember movies back in the day, somebody picks up someone, they're fooling around with them, and then wait, what's this? All right. But now you see, too many tragedies these days. So, all right. Wow, we've been going 2 hours already. Time freaking flies when you're having fun. So we'll wrap it up soon. We're back to the normal Raw time slot tomorrow. Like I said, they haven't announced the Raw Women's Tag Team for Evolution. I think it's going to be Kairi Sane and Asuka. I think fans want to see that team return. The women's tag team division in the WWE has been very, very lackluster. And I think putting Kairi Sane with Asuka is the best way to go, because despite what people want, I don't see Kairi Sane winning any singles championships anytime soon. There's too many others. And no, I'm not sure if they'll dethrone Roxanne Perez and Raquel Rodriguez anytime soon. I think they're keeping the titles until Liv Morgan returns at minimum. But I'd like to see the Kabuki Warriors reform. Everybody loved that team. Why not? Sean has a comment. He says, mother told him that back in the 80s, Iron Sheik, Junkyard Dog, and a bunch of wrestlers were running away from kids. Don't throwing snowballs at them, more specifically the Iron Sheik. I've never heard that story before, because I can't picture, maybe if the Iron Sheik and the Junkyard Dog went to a diner and they're walking in the parking lot towards their car and a bunch of kids, throwing snowballs out. I could see that. But I never heard that story before. I don't doubt it. I mean, I've witnessed a lot of impromptu snowball fights in my lifetime. We had that one awful story, a lot of you know, with the little igloo and the guy that the pedophile lived down the block from my friend's house. That was an impromptu snowball fight, but it was a very one-sided snowball fight because people were hitting him with ice. Oh, yeah, you throw ice in the snowballs? That. Sometimes what you would do is, if you find an area that has water, you take the snow and you put it around the water, and then you pack it up really, really tight. Then you hit someone. That's when you really want to hurt someone, man. You can kill someone with that. A few people now are curious. When I was, I think, 8 years old or 9 years old, a lot of young people will appreciate this. When I was 9 years old, 10 years old back in the 70s, they used to have where you could make your own igloo. And Toys R Us would sell it in other stores. And it was a piece of plastic that was a square. And all you would do is you would pack it with snow and put it down, and you would have to bang it on the floor to loosen it up. But I'm sure they still sell it today. But back in the 70s, it was $19.99, which would be about $50 today, maybe more. And all it was a piece of plastic with a handle. And you would literally one by one make an igloo out of it. And, because our parents would only buy us one, I had one, my friend Kenny had one, I think my friend Dave had one. So we're block by block trying to make an igloo. So this was around 1979. We were at the corner of my friend's house, because he used to have this big, there was a house on the corner that had this big front area, and he used to have lawn, but the grass died and everything, and the old lady that lived there let us, make an igloo there. So we had no yard to do it in. So we were near the corner of my friend's house, and we're making this igloo, And this guy that lived on the block walks over, and he was probably in his late 20s at the time. No one knew what was going to happen. But he's like, what are you doing? It's like, we're building an igloo. And he's like, oh, can I watch? And I'm like, sure. So we was, making the igloo. And he's like, can I do one? And I don't remember who gave him the snow thing, but he made one. And then he tackled one of my friends, like playing around with the snow and putting the snow like in my friend's face. And then he grabs him. And you know what? In the snowballs. And we all started like throwing shit at him. And my friend was packing like balls and just hitting him. And he was like, no. It was an accident. And he was literally trying to shield himself. And we were trying to hit him with everything we could find. And he ran down the block. And we found out years later that, he was a pedophile. I never told my parents. He didn't grab me. Nobody wanted to grab 10-year-old fat Anthony. They grabbed my friend Dave. My friend Dave used to look like Robert De Niro. 10 years old, 11 years old, you really don't have to look all that much. But, he grabbed my friend. It wasn't a joke, man. He literally grabbed him and fondled him. And, we didn't know at the time what was going on. All I know is that my friend was like, stop it. And then we realized what happened. And one of my friend Kenny was like, get off him. And he ran down the block. I don't think my friend Dave ever told his mother. I think he was embarrassed. I think he was more embarrassed than anything else. Like, we didn't think of calling the cops. Nobody knew. At 10 years old, do we know? The only thing we knew was, like, don't talk to strangers. Don't eat candy from strangers. Don't ever bite into fruit at Halloween. That's all we were told. And we always stood as a group. That is a true story. Sean has a comment. It was on St. John's Place in Brooklyn. She told him it was in 1985, a couple of years ago, before he was born. It happened at St. John's Place in Brooklyn, and it was 1985. You want to know something? I'm not just saying this. I'm thinking back at that time period, and I'll tell you why I think that is a true story. Because up until around 86, WWF was still doing shows at gyms, high school gyms, small little venues. Because I used to go to the Ridgewood Grove Arena. And I went to the Ridgewood Grove Arena, I think, up until 1983, maybe 84. I'm not sure, but I know it was at least 83. I think it was 84. And we used to go to St. Thomas. And Kev, God rest his soul, when Kev and I had a conversation or two over the years, they used to go to Holy Cross High School in the gym. So I don't doubt it. I bet you after a WWF event in Brooklyn that they could have been walking in the parking lot to their car, and you got a bunch of kids in the wintertime and start throwing snowballs at the Iron Sheik. I could picture it. And I could picture Junkyard Dog probably, because he was a baby face. I could picture Junkyard Dog like joining in with the kids, and he's like, throwing the snow also. I absolutely could see that, because if anybody out there, I mean, I don't know I think Cornette probably would tell some good stories. Because I don't remember, I mean, Smoky Mountain probably did, but even in the NWA days, I'm pretty sure they did small shows in school gyms and everything. I'm sure that there's some stories where they're walking in the parking lot behind the school and then they're confronted by kids or fans or stuff like that. Absolutely. I think anybody around that era probably could tell some great stories back then. Not JPEG, the chances of Aubrey Edwards going from referee to pro wrestler. I could see her having a match. I don't see her becoming a full-time wrestler. Why? I mean, like, I could picture her more like a Bill Alfonso, being a manager for someone. I don't want to see it. I want to make this clear. I could see Aubrey Edwards having a gimmick match with someone. Like I could see her like fight like a QT Marshall. You know what I'm saying? If she still remained in AEW, I don't see her going full time. I mean, if she wants to do it because she always wanted to, hey, I'm sure there's enough indie promotions out there that would bring her in. But I think she's better suited for one bullshit match or maybe being like a manager or something. And I don't even know if that would be good. Deuce says Smoky Mountain definitely did. One of you should ask Jim Cornette. Did you ever have any incidents with kids or fans in the parking lot? You know, at some of the smaller shows. Because I remember Ridgewood Grove Arena was very, very interesting. I remember Holy Cross High School because they used to have like basketball courts and then they would have the parking lot and the wrestlers would have to walk, you know, across and, you know, especially at an event that drew like 500 fans, you'd have enough of them lingering in the back and you really didn't have security like that. You had like 2-3 bouncers, but, you know, you didn't have like Atlas security like lingering around. Even when we used to do USA Pro shows, you would have enough security there. But when the shows were over and it's walking to the diner on the corner, you know, Sage Diner or whatever it was, or walking to the parking lot, you're on your own. You didn't have security escort. You were walking. And let me tell you something. If anybody remembers the Elks Lodge, even if you went for ECW shows, and one person in particular apparently tunes into these shows that was an ECW wrestler, tell me I'm not wrong to this person, that sometimes even the wrestlers had to park on the side street where the houses are. And when you're done with a show and it's like 11, 12 o'clock at night and you literally have to walk 2-3 blocks on just a public street, you know, you get all the people afterwards and they're all hanging out in the corner and they're going to this diner and this and that. You know, you'd have to walk past the shit. There ain't nobody escorting you. You literally would see. Even I remember the Elks Lodge clearly. I probably a couple people beep beep, and their cars are parked on the street. And those areas, a lot of people didn't like when you parked in front of their houses because it was hard enough to get spots. You park in front of their house so you could go wrestle. You know, I don't remember anybody ever having their cars fucked with, but you would get some people like, you know, like, where you going? You know, like some people didn't like if you parked in front of their house and then you walked 2-3 blocks away. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, douche. He says Smoky Mountain ran at high schools. That's what I'm saying. So I'm pretty sure Jim Cornette would probably have a story or two of doing a show at a high school and then afterwards having like confrontations, not necessarily violent, but having, you know, incidents of crossing with fans in a parking lot. Because there really wasn't anything to stop them. You know, you would have a security guy at the door so you wouldn't be able to get in through the back way. But once a wrestler like walked into the parking lot to walk towards their car, they're on their own. If you remember when Terry Funk passed, and we paid tribute to Terry Funk, you all remember, and you could go watch it again, that match that I showed, it was, I think, Al Snow versus Sabu in Detroit. And if you go back and watch the footage that I shared that night, look at Terry Funk. You see him walk literally residential streets and he's hiding under a fucking van and this and that. You look, just as that's happening in the back, just look at all the cars around. And that's exactly what we would have here in New York. It would be funny if any kids threw snowballs at Cornette back then. What a heavenly body. I bet you Jerry Lawler probably has some great stories. Unfortunately, though, you know, we know Jerry's not in the greatest of health. And by the way, did anybody see that footage of Ric Flair at some sporting event and he was with a woman and TMZ asked him, you know, what do you think of John Cena? He said he's the greatest of all time. Look at Ric Flair closely. I'm not saying this to be sinister or funny, but I don't see Ric Flair making it past 2026. He looks awful. I mean, he's looked old, and I know about his melanoma. You know, I have to take care of that myself, but not on that level. But he just looks bad. I don't know if anybody noticed that. Look at it. He just looks concerning. I think that's the way to put it. He looks very concerning. Go look up that video if you haven't seen it yet. You definitely want to see that. All right, we're at 2 hours and 15 minutes. We will finish in 15 minutes. We'll finish exactly at 2.5 hours. Apple pie or chicken wings? I mean, if you put both in front of me right now, I'd eat the apple pie. I'm not a big fan of chicken wings. Especially now how expensive they got. You want to know something that I hate about my wife? I can't tell her. You know, I like to get laid once in a while. She loves chicken wings, but she won't eat drums. And I order chicken wings sometimes and it's like $15, $20 for like 8. And I notice now every time she eats chicken wings, there's like 4 or 5 left over. And I would say to her, honey, you on a diet? She's like, no, why? No, like, no reason. And then I noticed the pattern. Motherfucker only eats flats. So I'm paying like $15, $20 for 8 wings, and she only eats the flats, and the drums are left over. I don't like eating wings. Here I am forcing myself to eat fucking buffalo wings. I hate buffalo sauce. But it's like, I'm not letting them go to waste. And I can't even feed it to the dogs because there's all this buffalo hot sauce all around it. So give me apple pie. All day long. Benjamin says, how foolish was it for that summer camp in Texas to ban cell phones? If nothing would have happened, you know what I mean? Like, we could look at so many different scenarios. It's a tragedy. It's a tragedy. It's human nature for us to want to try to figure out how could we have prevented this. And yeah, maybe having some extra phones could have prevented it. But, you know, maybe it couldn't have. You know what I mean? Like, it's an awful situation. And sometimes tragedies happen. And there's nothing you could do about it. You know, I brought up earlier with my parents. Believe me, I have the video the day of. If any of you have ever seen that video, I'm literally standing next to my parents' house, and my shoes and my jeans go up to my shins, covered in mud coming in. And my pants and my shoes were almost ruined. And I'm laughing on video, and my father said, what are you, fucking stupid? I showed the video. This was the day before Sandy hit. We thought that was the worst of it. I mean, the water was hitting up to my window. We thought that was the worst of it. And look what happened. You know, no one ever envisioned that. It's probably once in 100 years, but unfortunately, it was time. But I don't know if much could have been different. Let me put it this way. There's so many fires and earthquakes and tornadoes and hurricanes that we could look at a tragedy and then say, oh, we could have done this, or we could have prevented this, or why didn't we do this? You know, just sometimes it's going to happen, and it's sad, it's unfortunate, it's tragic. But I guarantee you no one there ever envisioned this, let alone kids dying like that. Terrible. All right. Rocky Red. Thank you for the 5 spot, my friend. He had a funny thought. Imagine Hangman winning the world title, grabbing the briefcase and seeing nothing inside. You know, I never forget the Booker T match in WCW. Anybody remember the match with Booker T? Was he supposed to like pick up the title or a box or something, and it fucking fell? I mean, it was just, and this was at the end of WCW's run for the most part. I mean, talk about wrestle crap. You know, they obviously would have an angle if that was the case, but look, My early feeling about All In is this. Sammy Guevara and Dustin Rhodes are the Ring of Honor Tag Champs. Dustin Rhodes and the Von Erichs are the Ring of Honor Trios Champions. Why do I bring that up? They have had the titles for a really long time. I think Guevara and Rhodes have had it almost a year. Von Erichs and Rhodes have to have it for close to that. Why do I think they're having these belts? So they can defend it in Texas. My point is, I think some things are strategically happening in Texas because All In is in Texas. Just like I think Will Ospreay will not be able to fight for the title for a whole year, and then All In's at Wembley next year, and he wins the title next year in Wembley. So Hangman possibly winning the world championship because they're in Texas, it's a cowboy. I mean, if there's any area to have Hangman win, it's probably Texas. So I don't think they would do wrestle crap like that, although it would be pretty damn funny. I think it'd absolutely be pretty damn funny. Havili, thank you, my friend. What Alberto Del Rio? He would win the world title WrestleMania 27 if Edge wasn't going to retire. And it was the first match of the card. Rey Mysterio, Eddie Guerrero, my opinion on Lucha Underground when it came out. Lucha Underground gave me the same vibes as Wrestling Society X. Wrestling Society X was really, really strange because there was so much of an XPW influence on it, and XPW was hated. My God, XPW's got to be thankful we didn't have Twitter back then. Whew. My God. The IWC in 2002 would have been pretty fucking interesting when XPW was around. When Wrestling Society X came around, it was strange because it was so over the top, but there was so much of an XPW influence on it. And then when Lucha Underground came out, it reminded me so much of Wrestling Society X. It was like Wrestling Society X meets Lucha Libre. There was just a different vibe, but I always felt it was a niche product. Never thought it would be a long-term thing. In fact, after like 1-2 seasons, I mean, it was a shame how it ended up, but it was never this moneymaker that people portrayed it to be. If Lucha Underground had a Tony Khan backer, probably would have lasted a lot longer. But unfortunately, it was not the moneymaker that people portrayed it to be. And some in the media flat out lied. And you know why they lied? For two reasons. Number one, because they loved the product. And number two, because they were trying to get hand jobs. They were trying to get, not physically hand jobs, but you know what I mean. Between Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero, I would lean towards Eddie Guerrero. And I'm not saying that because he's deceased. I really enjoyed Eddie when I first saw him in 93 when Worlds Collide. Then I got to experience him in ECW, and, you know, he had some matches there. ECW fell in love with Eddie Guerrero. And I'll never forget when he had his first WCW match. Yes, I know he fought in WCW many years before, but I'm talking about when he debuted on Nitro. I remember it was him and Dean Malenko, and they were like smiling at each, well, Eddie was smiling because they came full circle from what they did in Mexico, they did overseas, and now on the broad stage of WCW. Rey Mysterio, I absolutely loved. I saw Rey Mysterio in the early 90s by accident, just watching a Spanish TV station. Because here's a little tidbit for all of you out there. I used to love watching Lucha Libre on Telemundo. And I used to watch Telemundo because every soap opera, every chick had miniskirts on. I mean, if you wanted to just look at hot women and you didn't have access to like X-rated cable, You just turn on a Latin channel and every woman there had mini skirt or their tits would be out like this. Now, keep in mind, I'm in my teens at the time, early 20s. So, hey, it was what it was. But I got to see Ray by accident. And I remember the big Corona logo in the middle of the ring. That's why it doesn't bother me when WWE has logos in the ring. I remember the big Corona logo in the ring. And I remember Mexican fans had an obsession with air horns. Go back and watch any Lucha Libre from the early to mid-90s. And I'm sure it happened afterwards, but if you literally took a shot every time a fan blew an air horn, you'd be blitzed. I mean, that's all I remember from that. But for me, I had more of a personal appreciation for Eddie Guerrero than Rey Mysterio. Doesn't mean I didn't enjoy Rey Mysterio, but Eddie Guerrero I would lean towards more, even if Eddie never passed. And could Del Rio have won the title at that time? Sure. I mean, again, I always say this, one thing happens differently and it could spark a whole different chain of events. Edge doesn't retire. Where does the championship go from here? There's so many scenarios. And if Del Rio was a champion for an extended period of time, maybe he would have ended up feuding with someone else, that had an opportunity. Sometimes things happen and it starts a chain of events that you don't expect. Sometimes it's by accident. Sometimes it's, you step in shit. You get lucky with something. But, it's hard to say. I mean, I could see at the time, you didn't have, you had Cena, but it was more opportunity for someone to win a world title at that time. If you look back at that era, there were quite a few different people that ended up winning the world championship. So both scenarios could be a possibility. I could see Del Rio have an extended run, and I could see him having no run. I could see Edge having an extended run if he wasn't forced to retire. So that's my thoughts on that. Thank you for that. Jimmy with a 10 spot. Thank you, Jimmy. Did I catch any of that Ozzy Osbourne and Black Sabbath show yesterday? Yes, he was not in top form, but he thinks he pulled it off, pushing 80 with Parkinson's. Yes, I did see it. I expected it to be sad. I expected lip syncing. I expected it to be more of the fan singing. But I watched more than anything Crazy Train. And yes, he was sitting down. And yes, I think there was even a teleprompter. I thought he did great. I honestly thought he did great. The fans loved it. I mean, you know who I felt bad for yesterday? I don't know if any of you out there have seen the footage yet. Go look up Lauryn Hill. Just look up, I don't want to say nothing else. Just look up Lauryn Hill and watch what happened to her yesterday. If you thought AEW drew bad, watch that video. Wasn't her fault. There's a whole bunch, there's a story behind it, but look at Lauryn Hill performing yesterday. I was like, couldn't believe it. Like, listen, we've all seen fans that go to an AEW event and it's like 2 hours before it's live and they pan the crowd and everybody's like, look, there's only 70 people here. And then you realize, like, yeah, that's 2 hours before the show started. Nice try, asshole. People do that to make it look like AEW truly draws none, which is definitely unfair. But when they showed that footage of Lauryn Hill and they literally went around the arena, I was like, even if it was 2:30 in the morning, like, that's New Orleans. It was crazy. But Ozzy Osbourne, I was sad because he is 80 and because he doesn't have many years left. And that's it. We have to understand that happens to everything that we love. It happens to our favorite basketball players. It happens to our favorite football, baseball players, hockey. It happens to our favorite wrestlers. It happens, just every walk of life. Our favorite actors become too old. I got sad, looking at deaths this week. And I was looking at that guy Cletus from the Dukes of Hazzard. Of course he was a goof. He actually did have a show, Cletus, I think, once, and it got canceled quick. But I was like, holy shit, it was 85? Like, I remember him being in his 30s. And then you realize, holy shit. The years do fly by. And it reminds us, it's sad. You don't ever want to see the last of. But as far as Ozzy Osbourne, the beautiful thing about it is we're in an era of everything being recorded and documented. So you are able to look at yesteryear and still enjoy it, even with wrestling. Listen, Kenny Omega just did an interview and said he doesn't have many years left. Yeah, you said that 4 years ago too. But yeah, there's going to be a day that Kenny Omega truly has to retire. And a lot of fans will be sad, but the good thing is a majority of his career is saved and documented, and you'll be able to revisit it whenever you want. We don't ever want to see our favorites, become old, but it's just a part of life. It happens to everybody, it really does. So I was pleasantly surprised on how good that performance was yesterday under the circumstances. And you know what? I think the fans there loved it. I really do. Yeah, Kenny Omega is beaten up. But, he did say that 4 years ago, just like Edge, like 3-4 years ago, kind of like predicted when he was going to look, Shinsuke Nakamura. He said he was going to retire by 45, I think it was. And then he was like, it's not a hard 45, and he was comparing himself to Ichiro, the legend Hall of Fame baseball player. And he's like, I don't want to, oversee my, pass my welcome. He kind of compared himself to he's going to go out like Ichiro did. Now it's 45. Ooh, not so fast. So, there's going to come a day for everybody. That's why I say even with wrestling, 5 years from now, it's going to be really interested to see who's still doing it. I mean, right now, look at Roman Reigns, who arguably was the biggest star the last 5 years. He's coming back for SummerSlam, but since WrestleMania, non-existent. And I expected that, but I hate seeing videos. I'm not a part-time player. Remember when he's working out? I'm not a part-time. Yes, you are. Don't lie. You can convince yourself that you're not, but you are. And really continuing his generosity. Favorite Undertaker return. SummerSlam 94 with the purple gear. Judgment Day 2000. Debut of the American Badass, or WrestleMania 20's return with the Dead Man. Bobby Heenan, Gorilla Monsoon, Jesse Ventura, Vince McMahon, or Jerry Lawler and JR. He's talking about commentating teams. I know how Really writes. I figured that out, which is great. All right, first off, Tupac or Biggie. I can't believe is a fat Italian Guido. I've had the same haircut since my teens. I've been asked that question 10 times in the last year. For me, it's always been Biggie. Tupac I never liked when he was alive. When he passed away, I started appreciating his music more because people were paying so many tributes. I'm sorry, my glasses are a little unclear. That's why I said favorite pie before instead of PLE. So for me, it was always Biggie. Biggie was great, man. I loved how he used good old R&B. Some of the shit that he did was fucking great R&B shit, man. He even when he did like a more mellow song, it just, I don't know, it was just something about him I really enjoyed. I always wondered, like what he would have done if he didn't die so young. There's been others. I mean, like, I compare it to like Biz Markie. If anybody remembers Biz Markie, make the music with your mouth, Biz. I used to be able to do that. I can't do it now. I sound like I'm having a seizure. Like, I look back at his career when I used to even mix his songs. And I was like, wow, I wonder what Biz Markie is going to be like 20 years from now. Now it's 20 years later. I'm like, he didn't do nothing like that really like kept my interest. So I think Big E probably would have had a tremendous career. I think he probably would have wind down by now, but probably going into, maybe up to 10 years ago, I think he still would have had enough material. My God, with all the shit going on in the world, even in the inner cities, he definitely had material. Favorite Undertaker return, it's got to be 1994. I was one that enjoyed the Undertaker storyline. I, for one, enjoyed his feud with Yokozuna. I didn't like when he rose to the heavens. When I watch that now, I say to myself, they're so lucky they didn't have the internet back then. And I know some people are going to say, yes, they had the internet, but they didn't have social media like they do now. You imagine doing that segment where Undertaker gets in the coffin and then he rises? Fans online would have made sure that Meltzer had that at the top of his list as the worst fucking storyline of the decade, if not the century. People would have ripped that to shreds. People would have scorched the Undertaker like you wouldn't believe. I tell you, honestly, looking back on it, I don't understand how me and my friends didn't fucking laugh at that. I swear to God, I don't remember my reaction exactly, but I think me and my friends were more like, this is cool. I don't know, maybe we were drunk when we watched it, but I look back and I'm like, wow, this is fucking goofy, man. But I still enjoyed his return at that time. I will admit, I would have chose American Badass if he would have done it longer. When he came back and he was American Badass, that was fucking great, man. That was spectacular. We covered it on the hotline back then. That was fun. I just wish it lasted longer. And favorite duo between Bobby Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon, Jesse Ventura and Vince McMahon, or Jerry Lawler and Jim Ross. You want to know something? Many people my age and older will immediately see Bobby Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon. And I have said that for many, 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 many years. I now start leaning towards Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler. And I'll tell you why. Growing up in my childhood as a wrestling fan, Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan were my favorites. Will you stop it? I absolutely loved it. But going through the Attitude Era and even beyond, there's too many iconic moments with Jim Ross. More than anything, that I still look at as huge moments, and they're commentating even with Hogan and The Rock. There's too many matches that the commentary made it for me. Like for Bobby Heenan, I loved his antics. And when Macho Man proposed to Miss Elizabeth, will you marry me? And there's those ugly women in the crowd crying. And Bobby Heenan's legitimately laughing his ass off. And they're panning the crowd and showing us the ugliest women around. Like, moments like that make me laugh. And Bobby Heenan was so slick on the mic. But as far as big, huge moments and matches that were enhanced even more because of the commentary, I got to go with Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler. This is my honest opinion. Dog 29J, my favorite Duran Duran song, probably Hungry Like the Wolf. It's played out now, and I still hear it in dentist offices, and I'm kind of like played out with it. My most hated Duran Duran song of all time, what was it called? The Reflex? I fucking hated that song. Every time I heard it, I wanted to break my radio. I was just something about it. You know why? Because it felt like, I don't know if any of you growing up felt this way, but you'd have like a favorite artist, and then they blow up, and then they get too poppy, if that makes sense, like too on the pop music. I'll give you an example. Michael Jackson. When Michael Jackson started going past bad, like he changed. Like he's wearing leather outfits now and his hair looks different and he's trying to be like really like, I'm like, that's not the Michael Jackson that I enjoyed. And yes, you change with the times. I look at Prince. Prince, my God. Talk about chick magnet like CM Punk. That guy was chick magnet. And yeah, you got to adapt with the times. And when he started doing Batman, I'm like, fuck you. Like everybody changes like that. And I felt that way about Duran Duran. Like they just changed their music to like be more pop music. And that was it. All right. I think it's time to jet. Uncle Sal became a dentist last month. Kev and I got him through all his schooling. Free dental care for life if I'm ever down to come to Florida for treatment. I might consider that when I move to Marco Island. You know, not happening anytime soon. Hopefully not for a very, very long time. But once my parents have moved on to the better side and her parents, then we're going to look to get out of New York. New York is not what it used to be. So, Anthony from Seattle. What's up? What's going on? Doctor is tuning in from Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania. Home of the ferret, right? What was that thing? Groundhog? I always wanted to go there, for real. One thing that used to be on my bucket list is go see the groundhog live. But it had to be in Pennsylvania, not New York City. They do one in Long Island. That's bullshit. I appreciate everybody's love. Trust me, I thank you more than you know. Whether you're tuning in live on YouTube, channel member on YouTube, Patreon, downloading the shows, every little bit helps. Trust me, I want to grow this even bigger, but I have to keep a balance and be very smart about it. Burning out is not an issue for me because I know what my limitations are. I know when it's time to say when. But, I've already told some people that once we're done with the history show this year, in 2026, I'm going to be doing a shitload more online. I don't want to promise an episode every day, and people are been telling me for years to expand it besides wrestling, just talk about everyday shit or whatever. That's easy to do because it's literally just turning on everything, recording an hour or two, and turning it off. So that's probably the easiest show to do. But right now, the history show really, really eats up. You have no idea. And, I understand why some people do it, but some people try to tell me, oh, it's not worth the work and it's not a popular. Trust me, I know what my numbers are. And there's enough people that enjoy the history shows. And one thing is that those shows never get outdated. I don't do wrestler birthdays anymore because someone's birthday today, they may be dead tomorrow. But it's fun to look back at moments that we totally forgot about. And, when you get to even revisit the last 7 years, you see like a lot of things that you totally forgot about. And I like having that documented because if we're being honest, no one has done that show. That's not easy to do in wrestling. There's enough people out there that will just do a daily blog. There are thousands of people out there that do Raw recaps. There's hundreds out there that do Dynamite recaps. There's thousands out there that do watch-alongs. There's thousands that'll do pay-per-view recaps. There's thousands that'll do wrestling news. There's thousands that'll do an opinion show. No one does this history show. Not one person. So when I do these episodes, even if they do end up going 5-6 hour episodes, that shit's in the bag. It never gets outdated. 5 years from now, you want to go enjoy and check out some wrestling history and revisit some moments. And let me tell you something. I mean this 100% sincere. It's fun to watch things. But sometimes there's a different feeling you get when you close your eyes and you hear it. And you kind of got to create the picture of what you're hearing. And I always brought up, for an example, Slamversary 94, WCW. That match in Philadelphia it was a Legends match with Terry Funk versus Tully Blanchard. On commentary is Bobby Heenan and Gordon Solie. And, the match was fine. It ended up turning into chaos and a brawl. But what was so amazing about it was you had a lot of ECW fans in attendance. And this was 1994. This is right before ECW really started getting on the map. And when you listen to it and you just focus on the commentary, the noise from the wrestlers, and the fans, and you hear Gordon Solie reacted to Terry Funk using a weapon, and this and that, Bobby Heenan reacted to weapons, and you hear the crowd going ECW. You get lost in thought for a minute, and you kind of start feeling like, wow, this is what it would have sounded like if Gordon Solie and Bobby Heenan did commentary in ECW. It's one of my favorite examples that I actually prefer to listen to the match than watch it, because it forces you to, you're forced to focus only on what you hear. You're not distracted by crowd or what you're seeing. You're just focused by the audio. And it really makes things feel differently. So that's why those history shows are very special. It's the hardest thing I've ever done. It's even harder now because I got to sift through every fucking video game clip or every fucking recap. It's sickening. I try to find, I've said it a trillion times, I try to find something and people don't even title their shit properly. The trial of the tribal chief. I literally do a video search and the first 50, 60 results, I click on it and it's reactions and it's podcasters. What's up? It's your boy. SmackDown just ended and boy, was that crazy. Like, no, I want to see the fucking trial of the tribal chief. Or WWE has a edited version of it. Or Fox with those brutal censors. The fans are chanting, you fucked up. You fucked up. You can't find, I had to find fan cam footage. You check out the history show, it's unedited. You actually hear all the cursing. I had to find other versions just so I could splice it all together. It means enough to me to do that, so. All right, can't end it yet. We'll end it in 10 minutes because I had a few additional generous people with some run-ins. I call the ends the run-ins. Dog 29J, he's getting engaged and deciding on a song we dance. She wants Barry White, You're the First, You're the Last. I want Father Figure, What Was Mine at My Wedding. Okay. Tell you the truth. I got married in 1999. I had the marriage annulled 6 months later. So, on record, never happened. Never happened. My video package, like my wedding video, that shows like me getting ready and my ex getting ready and I'm with all my friends and everything. That song, You're the First, the Last. I think my everything, that song played the entire time. So every time I hear that song, I'm reminded about that video. I I like Father Figure a little better of those two choices, but I will tell you, Barry White's song is not a bad song. For me, when I got married in 1999, you got to understand this is 26 years ago. I used the song Always and Forever by Heatwave. That's the song that we used back then. That was a very popular wedding song back then. Now it's fucking played out. This time around, I wanted to use the song The Closer I Get to You because the words really match me and her. The night I played the song for her, I got really into the song, and I thought she was going to cry and say, absolutely. I played the song for her, and she's like, I hate it. And I was like, huh? And she's like, oh, no. So she chose Crazy for You by Madonna. And I was like, whatever. Because I don't like this. I used to love the song Crazy for You. But my memory of Crazy for You by Madonna, I went to Italy in 1985. Yeah, 85. I went to Italy. And when I went to Italy, that song had just come out, I think. And I remember I was at a nightclub in Italy, and the last song of the night was that song. And I remember we were all drunk beyond belief because there's no drinking age in Italy. And we were literally in the club, and I don't even know what the fuck we were doing. But I think I was like just dancing in place by myself, and that song was on. And I always remembered that. I was like, boy, I made a total ass out of myself. No wonder why I didn't get anything that night. But I don't know. Of those two, I don't think either one is bad. If she really wants Barry White, that, let me put it this way. That song is held up very, very well. Just remember, if you have like a dance with your mom, or if she dances with her dad, you're going to have to pick two other songs also. So, I don't remember the name of the songs that we chose, but one day soon I'll show the video. Enough of you have asked. I'll definitely show the video. Thank you for that, my friend. And congratulations. Definitely let me know that she said yes. By the way, did you see the bullshit online today? I saw a couple of websites with clickbait with wrestling news saying, oh, WWE couple ties in a knot. Who got married? I click on it, and it's Carmelo Hayes proposing to Kalani Jordan. They don't even know what the meaning tied or not is. Tied or not means you got married. They didn't get married. They got engaged. And I saw people today, WWE couple ties the knot. So one guy, I DM'd him, and I'm like, you really need to clickbait that bad? So what does he do? He adds the word to. He adds the word to in his article. So now it says WWE couple to tie the knot. I mean, the desperation by some people is just ridiculous these days. Just say WWE couple got engaged. But they use wrong words because they know you'll click on it. And I clicked on it. Yeah, that was a good edit. You got to give him that. Havili, thank you very much, my friend. He says, let's just say WWE did Forbidden Door with New Japan. What is the possibility this match would have happened? Orton versus Okada? Rollins versus Ospreay? Omega and the Young Bucks versus the New Day? Usos versus... God, wait. The Golden... Wait. Usos versus... That doesn't sound right. In the chat, clarify that for me. Oh, the Grills of Destiny. Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Or Team WWE versus Team New Japan. Okay. Usos versus Gorillas of Destiny. Let me put it this way. This is how I would answer this. If WWE and New Japan did two events, one that was meant for the States to see, and one that was meant for directed at Japanese fans. I could see the Usos versus the Guerrillas of Destiny overseas in Japan. Don't get me wrong. You know, the Guerrillas of Destiny are household names pretty much now. But back then, I don't think American fans really would have gave two shits. So I think that's a match more for the Japanese fans, but I like the New Day versus the Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks because of the video game tie. I mean, fans always wanted to see that match, and I always thought it would happen for some charity. You know, like even a charity event, I would think now with Vince out of there, I think if a charity event came up down the line, the only problem is you don't, obviously Big E can't wrestle anymore, but you would want Kenny Omega and Xavier Woods at minimum. So you would have to have Kenny Omega team up with someone. And I don't know if it should be the Young Bucks, unless the New Day throw our truth with them. I know he's not the comedy guy anymore, but tell me the New Day and R-Truth versus Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks wouldn't be fun. I would think it would be fun. Ospreay versus Rollins would give off the same vibes as Rollins versus Punk. Problem is that Ospreay at that time was not a household name. Not many people reacted to the internet feud they had when Rollins was doing that awful shit with Becky Lynch and Lacey Evans and Baron Corbin, because that's the era you're talking about. Fans didn't give a shit much about Will Ospreay at that time. He just seemed like an annoying complainer from overseas. Now, Ospreay being in AEW enough, I think fans would pay to see Ospreay and Rollins. Orton Okada would be fun. I don't know if it would be the match that Rollins and Ospreay would deliver. So out of all those matches, I would go with Ospreay and Rollins. I think that would be, and I still think that would be an amazing match. Orton and Okada, I think, would have a little comedy to it, but I think Orton would hit him with an RKO out of nowhere. I think that match would end quicker than we expect. So I'm going to go with Rollins and Ospreay. It still could happen. Will it happen? Probably not. I think out of all the matches you said, I think the New Day and Omega with someone could still happen. And I think it could happen for charity. I really do. I would even go with, you know what? You sold me, Roderick. I would go with Usos versus the Young Bucks and have Kenny Omega team up with somebody else against the New Day. I don't know if I would choose Hangman Page. I don't know if I would choose him. I don't think I would. I would have to think about it a little bit. But I could see that happening for charity. Thank you for that, Avili. Much love and thank you. All right, we're going to close it out with Avili again. On the podcast, Jeff Jarrett said that X-Pac deserved a solo induction in the WWE Hall of Fame. Do I agree? Too Cool, PG-13, or Public Enemy? I love DCW's Public Enemy. I enjoyed WCW's Public Enemy. Nah. I hated, but I didn't like that theme song that much. Yeah, I'm listening to it in my head right now. Yeah, PG-13 was a good Southern tag team. I didn't like their work outside of, I think it was Smoky Mountain, pretty much. When they were part of the early Nation of Domination, I was like, what? Like, I mean, I think a lot of people still don't know that PG-13 was original members of the Nation of Domination. Too Cool was fun. And adding Rikishi was fun too. I enjoyed Public Enemy and ECW. I enjoyed them in WCW too. But Too Cool, I don't know. Too Cool has a soft spot. You know why? Because Brian Christopher actually could work better than anybody realized. And Scotty 2 Hotty was good enough in the ring. And if you want a good example of a tag team that had no business getting the success that they did, it was them. Remember when they were Too Much? Anybody remember when they were Too Much? That was the name of their team, Too Much. I mean, that was going nowhere. I have to go with Too Cool. Plus, Johnny Grunge got too heavy. I tell you, she'll never hear this, but I always felt I owed an apology to the widow of Johnny Grunge. I really mean that. When he died, it was complications from sleep apnea. He was very heavy too, but he had very serious obstructive sleep apnea. A lot of these details really have never been discussed that much publicly. But I remember back then, that was the reason that was coming out of his family. And I remember covering it on my hotline, and I think the early days of podcasting when it first happened. And I said, no, he died because he was too fat. You know, and I was pretty blunt about it, but I was like, the guy got almost 350 pounds. That's why he died. And yes, if he wasn't that heavy, he probably wouldn't have had apnea. But now I understand, and I've understood for 20 years how serious sleep apnea is. And I always felt bad afterwards, like, yeah, I shouldn't have been that blunt about it because sleep apnea was the reason why. He went to sleep, never woke up. In fact, believe it or not, when Flyboy Rocco Rock died, I remember a bunch of us were on our way to an indie wrestling show in New Jersey. I don't remember, I think it was Jersey All Pro. And we were all, a bunch of us, me and like 5 other wrestlers, were all in a van going to Jersey All Pro or something. And somebody's phone went off in the car and they said, Flyboy Rocco Rock died. People were like, what? It was just really strange how it went down. So, and it was the Ted Petty Memorial. I remember they did that, I think for 3PW back then. And I'll finish up with this one about X-Pac. Listen, I watched Sean Waltman when he was a Lightning Kid, before he ever went to the WWF. The 1-2-3 Kid was a great underdog. His feud with Scott Hall is memorable. It was definitely an upset. Is he Hall of Fame worthy on his own? You know what? I would say borderline. The only way I would put Sean Waltman in the Hall of Fame by himself is if the New Age Outlaws went as a tag team first. And I don't see Billy Gunn and Road Dogg going in the Hall of Fame as solo guys. I think Billy Gunn has had a bigger Hall of Fame career than X-Pac, if we're being honest. I mean, you look at before he ever went to the WWF, you think of the Smoking Guns, think of D-Generation X, think of Billy and Chuck, think of Mr. Ass, think of what he did in as Voodoo Kin Mafia in TNA. Look at what he's done in AEW. Look what he's done as a trainer. Look what he's done in DX. If I'm going to put Sean Waltman in the Hall of Fame, I'm best damn going to put Billy Gunn in there first. So if Billy Gunn ever went into the Hall of Fame by himself, then I would say, all right, I could accept Sean Waltman. But if Billy Gunn does not go in by himself first, I say no to Sean Waltman. Just my honest opinion. Does he go in the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame? I think in Schenectady or Texas, wherever it is now. Yeah, I could see that happening. But as far as the WWE Hall of Fame, no, I don't put him in singular. Unless Billy Gunn goes in first. So, all right. I am going to jet. We were going to finish at 2 hours. We ended up doing 3 hours and 5 minutes. I want to thank you all for a fun night Sunday. It is 11:10 p.m. Eastern over here. So I will get this online for everyone to download as quickly as I can. If you are around Monday night right after Raw, you're welcome to join me over at dtkcdiscord.com. dtkcdiscord.com. Easy. Very easy to remember, and it's free. We will recap Raw. We will do predictions for Saturday night's main event. We will also do predictions for, what was the other one we were going to do? Slamversary is next week. No, we're not doing NXT until Wednesday. So I guess it would just be Saturday night's main event. Because we're not going to do All In until Wednesday night. We're not going to do Great American Bash until Wednesday night. Slamversary is next week. Which one am I forgetting? Let me look at my thumbnail. Let me look at my very dumb thumbnail for today. What am I forgetting? Slamversary is next week. We don't have to worry about that. All In and Great American Bash. Oh, Evolution. Duh. We could do Evolution because tomorrow we should. Well, you know what? You know what? Yes, I will do Evolution Monday night. And I'll tell you why. I know what some of you are going to say. Well, DT, we're not going to know what the NXT team is going to be. If we're being honest, is it going to matter? Does anybody think any tag team is going to defeat Roxanne Perez and Raquel Rodriguez right now? No. Of course not. So I'm not going to wait until we find out on Tuesday night who the NXT team will be. Well, we know it's not going to change who we predict. So, yes, we will do Evolution predictions on Monday night too. If anything changes between Monday and Wednesday, we'll add to it on Wednesday. But we will definitely do Saturday night's main event and Evolution on Monday night. Wednesday night, we'll do NXT Great American Bash and AEW All In. And then next week, we do Slamversary. So I want to thank you all for joining me tonight. Pleasure as always. I thank you for supporting everything that I do. It's been an interesting year. It's been a hard year. But, you know, as I say, got to keep going. Keep moving ahead. And it doesn't mean that we forget about our past. We always celebrate it, and we never, ever forget about it. And we always keep it close. But, you know, we got to keep moving on. Because if we don't, someone else will, obviously. So, you know, just stay strong. You know, hang in there. And I thank you, as always, for your support. Much love, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. And I'll catch you all next week. Be well.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the host. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. It doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.